Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on which part of the world you might be tuning in from. The Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, in association with the International Institute of Communication, present the BCJ's 35th Digital Communication Forum under the theme, Doing Now for Then, envisioning the next 35 years. Can you imagine that? Now, this live stream is powered by CarryFlow Innovations Limited, and that is to ensure that your virtual experience is top notch. I am Dr. Terry Carell Reed, and I am pleased, excited, and honored to serve you in the capacity of host. And I bring you warm greetings from my island of Jamaica. Now, I understand that we have attendees and participants from across the world. Jamaica, naturally. We have persons from USA, Trinidad and Tobago, the UK, as well as Guyana. Now, if you are representing another country or another nationality, please go ahead, drop it in the chat and let us know so that we can actually acknowledge your country. Now, you are watching across social media platforms, YouTube, as well as Facebook. And we want to also thank those of you who registered and are watching right here on the Hopping platform. For those of you who would like to experience the 360 virtual experience within the Hopping platform, registration is still open and absolutely free throughout the day. Now, we have amazing panelists, speakers, as well as presenters who are bursting with information and insight, and they are ready and raring to go. This promises to be a fantastic forum. All the sessions will be enlightening, engaging, and entertaining, so you will not want to miss any session at all. We invite you to like, share, comment, and use the hashtag BCJ35th. That's BCJ35TH. Lastly, I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge and welcome our JSL, our Jamaica Sign Language interpreters, because the BCJ as well as the IIC believe in the power of inclusion, especially when it comes to media and communication. So to the deaf community, we'd like to say hello, welcome, good morning. It is so good to have you. So this is an important topic. We're speaking about media and communication, the industry, how much has changed over the last 35 years, and what will it look like in the next 35 years, not only for traditional media, but social media, new media, privacy, data, how we disseminate information, how do we consume information. It's a lot on. Promise we're going to do it in fine time. But before we get to our sessions, we would like to officially begin our opening ceremony. Now, the IIC exists to shape the policy agenda for the telecoms, technology, and media sector. Let us hear from the president of the IIC, Chris Chapman, as we discuss the way forward for the media and communication industry. Please welcome him. some issues with the audio. Let me see. Let me just find out from the team if we can welcome Chris Chapman one more time. And we're saying Murphy's Law, you are not going to show up today for our media and communication, our digital communication forum. So I would just like to give him some chance, give him a time, just to see if we'll be getting the audio. If not, we will actually move to the very next person who is on the program. All right, so let us welcome again the president of the IIC, Chris Chapman, as we discuss the way forward in the media and communication industry. Let us welcome him.
Chris Chapman here, President of the IIC, and delighted to join you on this special occasion. Now, regulation is rarely thought of as an exciting activity. At its heart is the doing of your homework to fully understand complex topics. It involves gathering and analysing data, often through original research, before formulating and testing and implementing policies, and even then monitoring and revising them. Rigour, consistent focus and endurance are challenges for any regulator, but it has become much, much tougher in a digital age in which the nature and application of technology is changing so fast and with such profound consequences. From where I sit, it's toughest of all for regulators in smaller nations, often without the resources or array of expertise available to their better resourced peers. And again, from where I sit, I've concluded that to be an effective regulator in a small nation, you have to box clever, using every tool available to carry an influence greater than your perceived weight. And it's here where the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica excels, from leading the debate on AI through the Caribbean Artificial Intelligence Initiative to collaborating with global bodies such as UNESCO, and of course being a core vital member of the IIC, where the BCJ pioneered the establishment of the Small Nations Regulatory Forum, as well as contributing regularly in the wider global regulatory fora. Your commission has actually led in areas like digital literacy. Few regulators can lay claim to creative awards for their public service messages, as the BCJ can for the wonderful Pinchy Dead campaign, warning against fake news. Now, I have to tell you, I couldn't understand everything was being said. In fact, virtually nothing, but I suspect that a chap from down under is not meant to. And it was only natural that when the IIC published a series of think pieces in 2019 to celebrate its 50th anniversary, one of the very best contributions came from our good friends at the BCJ, Anthony Clayton and Cordell Green, recognising that in an era of global communication, the governing rules must be framed internationally and axiomatically rejecting the ideas of countries and blocs outside of the digital triumvirate of the US, EU, and China becoming in some way rule takers and beholden, therefore, to the opinions of jurisdictions with the greatest, biggest capacity and influence. In this, Anthony and Cordell spoke for many countries, including us here in Australia. Having fervently debated the importance of platform regulation over many years, we are at last beginning to see the emergence of realistic rules designed to meaningfully address their power, ensure open competition, and provide suitable, that is, fit-for-purpose consumer protections in areas like data, privacy, and of course, news content. There is still some way to go, but if we are to make real progress, then it's essential that global rules work for consumers everywhere, not just those in the largest countries. There will always be a need for national rules, unquestionably, but even many large countries do not have the weight to address the power of platforms on their own. And regulatory collaboration, the kind that is at the heart of the IIC as well as the BCJ, will be crucial to the success of the emerging frameworks. For all this, we must equally recognise that platforms, like so much digital technology, has the power to dramatically improve the lives of citizens and consumers across the world. We must always remind ourselves also that the role of regulators is to enable as well as to protect. And of course, companies need to be able to invest with confidence. I have no doubt that these issues will continue to be debated at the IIC, within the BCJ, and elsewhere for many years to come. Finally, I very much would like to say this: as strong as the professional relationship is between the IIC and the BCJ, it's more than that. Over the years, we have come to develop warm, very warm personal relationships too. It's why we're so proud to have the BCJ as members of the IIC family, and why I'm so delighted to have been asked to make this opening address. And I'm especially pleased to welcome the Honourable Fayval Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, as well as your Chairman, Professor Anthony Clayton, and the Executive Director, the incomparable Cordell Green. Knowing the BCJ, I'm quite sure you're going to have excellent, robust, but constructive debates over the next few days, and I look forward to hearing about them. In the meantime, congratulations on your 35th anniversary and best wishes for the next 35.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Chapman, certainly reminding us about the power of the platforms, reminding us of the importance of global rules and the fact that that sort of governance and policy work for us as consumers to enable as well as to protect. Thank you so very much. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge Cordell Green, the incomparable Cordell Green, as Mr. Chapman there mentioned. Now, in his capacity as chairman for the BCJ and director of the Institute for Sustainable Development, Professor Anthony Clayton will speak to us about the impending changes of the media that can be expected coming in the next 35 years in digital communication. Professor Anthony Clayton, I hope you got your coffee. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Terry Camille. Very good to see you. And welcome people from all over the world to our 35th anniversary. The 35th anniversary of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. It was a very different world 35 years ago. It was actually exactly 35 years ago that Rupert Murdoch broke the power of the print unions and started the move to modern newspaper publishing. And back then, you had things called newspapers and radio and television and cinema, all largely separate entities with very little crossover. Now, we have one social media company that manages the interactions of over half the population of the planet. So we as a media regulator have had to reinvent ourselves several times over the last 35 years as technology has transformed the sector that we regulate, not once, but over and over again. Even more profound changes lie ahead. By 2050, there will be 6 billion people in the world's workforce, of whom 5 billion will be doing jobs that don't exist today. Our thinking about the nature of work will change. By 2050, work may no longer be related to how you earn a living, as artificial intelligence will either replace or supplement many forms of human activity. By 2050, you will probably be able to own a single device with more processing power than currently exists on Earth, and it will have a fully semantic or neural interface. Now, this means that the nature of education will change, as you'll have your own personal guru with you at all times, explaining the world to you. So we probably won't need universities anymore. By then, I suspect conventional media, as we know it now, won't exist either. It will probably have been replaced by a fully immersive, interactive interface, which will follow us wherever we go. But in this brave new world, it is also unfortunately clear that we will have to be dealing with some new problems. We have already seen criminal and terrorist networks penetrate social media and the media platforms. Last year, we learned that there were nearly 200 Facebook groups in the Middle East and North Africa alone that were developed solely for looting and trafficking. The largest of these groups had 437,000 members, which means that Facebook groups are now among the largest criminal organizations in the world. And unfortunately, it is also likely that we will see new and far more sophisticated attempts to sway elections, using deep fakes to make it impossible for people to know what is true anymore. So we will have to learn to be far more agile. We've already had to do some of this. We have so far survived the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu in 1918. The media industry in Jamaica suffered, and we had to switch part of our emphasis to supporting the sector to ensure its survival. But we are going to have to be even more adept in future. This radically new environment ahead means that we are going to have to rethink much of the nature and purpose of regulation. It is already fairly clear that the consumer will be in the front line, which is why we now place so much emphasis on building digital literacy in Jamaica. And the BCJ is very proud to be playing a full part in the global discussion of the new models of regulation that we're going to need. We're very fortunate today in our speakers. We have some of the brightest and the best, people who are at the cutting edge, thinking deeply about these issues and who have insights that they will share with us. Our presenters today include a futurist and storyteller, some absolutely wonderful children, a brilliant digital artist, 2 outstanding comedians, and some of our Caribbean AI innovators. So please let me welcome our moderator, Dr. Terry Carroll Reid, our Minister, Fayval Williams, Chris Chapman, the President of the IIC, the Commissioners, the Executive Director, Cordell Green, and the staff of the BCJ, and our distinguished presenters. And please let me thank the IIC for being our most steadfast supporter. In particular, Chris Chapman, Mr. President, and Lynn Robinson, the Director General. And a special shout out to the former Director General and our friend, Andrea Millwood Hargrave, who will be co-moderating the panel discussion on the future of media. Thank you very much for your attention, and let me hand over now to our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor Clayton, for really putting everything into perspective. When we think about visioning for the next 35 years, we think, well, that's far, that's way in the future. But what we have seen is that a lot has changed. And so I grew up with a TV, one TV station, there'd be programming, the lines would go up at a certain time, and we knew that was it. No more content, no more programming until the very next day when the national anthem would play at 5:30. Lots of radio, lots of newspaper. And in the last few years, we've seen YouTube and TikTok and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and all of these different platforms and Netflix, and everything is just moving so quickly. So again, you really put into perspective the innovations and what content creation will look like, the aggregation, the dissemination and the consumption. And naturally, what does that mean for our rights, freedom of expression and control of data? Thank you so very much for that. Now, at this time, it is my pleasure to invite and to welcome Minister Fayval Williams, our Minister of Education, Youth and Information. Kindly welcome her to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you, our moderator, Dr. Terry Carroll Reid. And to say it sounds like we're from the same era. I remember TV as well used to be turned off at a certain time. Let me acknowledge our Minister of State, the Honorable Nesta Morgan, our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Grace McLean, acting, our Chairman, Professor Anthony Clayton, Chairman, Broadcasting Commission, Jamaica, our Commissioners, Mr. Cordell Green, Executive Director, staff of the BCJ, Mr. Chris Chapman, President of the International Institute of Communication, Dr. Claire Nelson, and other distinguished presenters and attendees, boys and girls. Good morning to our participants in Jamaica. Good afternoon to those in the United Kingdom. Thank you, Professor Clayton, for the invitation to be with you at this, your special 35th anniversary celebrations and forum. First, may I begin by extending congratulations to the Broadcasting Commission on your 35 years of operation in Jamaica. 35 years is a relatively short time in the life of an organization, yet the tremendous volume of work you have accomplished during this time speaks well of your diligence, commitment to high standards, and continuing relevance to the media landscape in Jamaica. Few sectors would have seen as many changes or have been subject to such rapid technological developments as the broadcasting industry. Developments in information communication technology have provided opportunities for much improvement in content and quality, and at the same time opened the sector to significant competition and challenges. In this regard, the BCJ has maintained its relevance in providing regulation and guidance to the broadcasting industry within the context of government policy. Over the past few years, the dominant concern to the broadcast sector was how developments in technology was changing the communication sector in general and the media landscape in particular, and the extent to which current regulatory and legislative framework were adequate for the times. Over the past year and a half, however, the COVID-19 pandemic and its disruptive impact on businesses have since overtaken these concerns. In fact, this has forced changes in staffing arrangements and programming content for many entities. Local broadcasters have had to implement cost-cutting measures, including automation, unfortunately layoffs and salary cuts, in order to keep their stations on air at this very difficult time. These concerns are thrown into sharper focus against the background that the media landscape has changed significantly. Not only is the social media phenomenon changing how and what is shared among widely dispersed people, with implications for advertising spending, but so too is the management of traditional media. The shift in communication patterns is from one-to-one and one-to-many to many-to-many collaborative communication. This includes sharing videos, photos, and other multimedia content. Within that context, attempts at regulating broadcasting are increasingly problematic. Many still associate the term broadcasting to mean over the air, but it is certainly true that less of the media content we consume today is coming via traditional broadcasting. Indeed, as media have become more digitized and the internet increasingly in the mode of carriage for all media, newspaper and magazine content, movies, etc., are all migrating to the internet. With less costly technologies and multimedia tools, greater use of broadband and wireless networks, social media platforms are seen as more viable vehicles for communication and media services. And we know that consumers are responding eagerly. The availability and convergence of mobile communication and the internet are now creating a platform that enable group communication encompassing many participants through shared spaces in virtually any geographic location. The combination of shifts in communications control and patterns is redefining the competitive landscape, giving rise to new business models and questions about fairness in regulation of traditional media versus the almost free-for-all of new media. Against this background, the overarching theme of your 35th anniversary celebrations, Doing Now for Then, Visioning the Next 35, is timely even as it underscores current and future challenges. I must therefore commend you for organizing this forum as a forward-looking event, examining the technological and structural changes now underway and what the media and communications industry might look like in a few years from now. I also take this opportunity to welcome the participation of representatives of the International Institute of Communications. In many ways, the prospects are very exciting. I think in particular of increased digitization and in a special way of the planned transition to digital TV or digital switchover here in Jamaica by 2023. In other areas, there's cause for great concern amidst the evolving relationship between traditional and social media, especially with regard to the potential for strengthening or dilution of rights to privacy, free expression, and control over personal data. Undoubtedly, regulators such as the BCJ will have to help the wider society to navigate these changes with dexterity, vision, and paying careful attention to the varied interests within and impacted by the sector. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information will therefore continue to engage with stakeholders to determine how best we can work together within this changing landscape and which of the evolving legislative frameworks best work for Jamaica. May I therefore close by wishing all of you that is well for the anniversary celebrations and especially for a productive forum today. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Minister Fayval Williams, for your very wise words. And certainly we are celebrating with the BCJ 35 years. And even though it seems short, as you rightfully said, for organizations and companies, what BCJ has been able to do in the last 35 years has been nothing short of phenomenal. So of course, we want to remind all of our viewers to use the hashtag BCJ 35th as well as hashtag digital communication. So there you have it. We're wrapping our opening ceremony, and now we're going to dive into our sessions. Again, we said they're going to be engaging, enlightening, as well as entertaining, and it has been carefully curated to ensure that all of the topics, all of the titles are in fact relevant to the media and communication industry. So as we look at technology, innovation, the proliferation of all of these platforms, the ease with which we can communicate and access other people, there's so many things that we have to question. What are the media trends? What will media look like? What will society look like? And how will our privacy be controlled? We're going to unpack so much. So our very first session is titled Media Trends, Visioning the Next 35 Years. And our keynote speaker for this particular session is Dr. Claire Nelson, our own Jamaican woman of our soil, and the first Jamaican woman to earn a doctorate degree in an engineering discipline, and the only Black in her graduating class. That's pretty impressive. Her book, Smart Futures for a Flourishing World, has been praised for its timeliness during the pandemic, as it encourages us to contemplate the future while taking stock of the current unfolding realities. Get your pens, get your notepads, get your paper, because class is now in session. We welcome Dr. Claire Nelson, our keynote speaker.
Greetings and salutations. As you know, there is nowhere in the world you can go and not meet up on at least one Jamaican. Well, I was the first Jamaican on the moon. I first came up in 2036 to help set up Lunaville. That is the place where civil society cosmonauts come up to do research. But my friend, that is still for a long day. Let me talk to you now about what you want to hear about, which is broadcasting. All I can think about is the song is Mouta Massey Liza Girl, you know, hear the mama they call you. That was the first broadcaster I knew, Mouta Massey Liza Girl. But seriously, 35 years into the future, 35 years ago when I was a young Turk, let's think about the year 2050. And it's the Global Observer Online. And its news goes over 5 million sea nomads or residents on third age leisure world ocean condominiums have been offline for over 48 hours since their internet provider IIC lost its satellite in the wake of an intensive solar flare activity. Third Age, founded in 2022, is the largest operator of homesteads in the world, with vessels in the EEZs of all the big ocean small state nations in the alliance of small island states. They have repurposed the cruise ships, which were converted into floating apartments, and they're home to close to 15 million people who call themselves sea nomads. Can you imagine a world in which climate change has happened and people are living on the sea like nomads? That's what we're here to explore, the future. Why are we here? Where are we now? What is the future we want? How is the future emerging? And what might the future be? So why are we here? We're here because we're in a state of future shock. We're here today because we want to explore what is happening and get out of that sense of the deer in the headlights, or in this case, a bug with a dragonfly eyes, and begin to look more carefully on what's coming so we can better prepare for the world we want. We want to move from future shock to future sense. We need for leaders of all organizations, be they media organizations, broadcasting commission staff, ministry staff, and all the consumers themselves, to understand what is ahead so that we might best prepare for the changes we're about to see. Now, who is who in broadcasting is a big conglomerate, and typically people talk about content providers and service providers and distributors and content creation, but they often forget that the broadcasting ecosystem also includes the regulators, the policymakers, the lawyers that make sure that we're doing what it's supposed to be doing. Why? Because broadcast media is a public good. It is the fourth estate. It is meant to be that instrument that ensures that we live in free, sustainable democracies. There's a human rights declaration about this. And even there's a World Press Freedom Day. And all of this so that we might understand what we want. Our challenge is typically to plan for the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous future that we're entering. And all of this requires a new type of leadership that is sustainable, measurable, agile, resilient, and transformative. So the question is, my friends, are you future ready? Have you come to accept and deal with that we're living in a VUCA world? Do you know what major trends affect this industry? Have you thought about where you might need to partner in order to get better and work smarter and move faster, and more importantly, ensure we have a sustainable media system? So we are here in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I don't need to explain it anymore, because clearly after the last 18 months of living in COVID, we understand exactly what that means. The question is, can we imagine how this might evolve? So look out to 2040 with me and see that we have a security company, smart home security company, which has been sued for a cybersecurity breach by the International Condominium Owners Association, which represents over 250,000 homeowners that invested in condominiums worth $1 million or more. Why? Because their high-end IoT-enabled smart homes have been breached. And these rich people want to make sure that their privacy and safety is taken into account. What do I mean by smart home? We are living in an Industry 4.0 world. Industry 4.0 is this way of describing the blurring of the boundaries of this technology, from AI to robotics to Internet of Things to 3D printing. Yes, they're 3D printed buildings, they're 3D printing organs, genetic engineering, machine learning, blockchain technology, and even now, cryptocurrency. I still have my head wrapping around that. Fourth industrial revolution seems to be very, confusing to some. Certainly blockchain is confusing to me, and it has promise and peril. On the one hand, we talk about new vistas and being able to prepare for natural disasters from space, etc. But there's also the peril of loss of jobs, because there's so many new ideas, new mergings that are happening. In media, we see the convergence of the 3 C's: computing, communication, and content. And of course, the technological convergence, which I've heard other speakers talk about, from smartphone to tablet to desktop to TV, we can see it all everywhere. So the question is, are you ready for Industry 4.0? Are you ready? There are so many possibilities when we consider the billions of people that are going to be connected by mobile devices. Yes, not millions, billions of people that will be connected by mobile devices by the year 2030. And Industry 4.0 is about leveraging all these advances and sharing and collecting information so that we can have the future we want. Now, what is the future we want? The future we want is that safe, just space for humanity. We want smart futures, futures that are smarter than the way we're behaving, certainly right now, because we are on the precipice of expanding beyond our 9 planetary boundaries. We're also on the precipice of falling below the social goods that we've set ourselves. And so the future we want is about living in that space where people have flourishing lives. So again, look out with me at the year 2030 and note that Guardian Casualty Insurance has launched a partnership with the Global Island Infrastructure Partnership for all the members of the Alliance of Small Island States to support cyber insurance for Wi-Fi systems on all the million commercial buildings for the next 5 years. Why? Because with all the tourists and all the businesses working offline, they have found that without that insurance, if people are hacked, then these companies and these businesses get sued. We don't want that. The future we want is one that looks like that described in the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 goals, 169 targets. And of these, at least 2 have something to do with media specifically, but actually, media is important to push all of this information out. Media is what I call the tail bearer tribe, because you are the ones that carry the tails, like Mautamasi, whether it's news or entertainment. And this is why we need media and information literacy. It used to be that was only could read, write, and arithmetic. Now we have to have futures literacy, media literacy, information literacy, digital literacy, and Vision 2030 might need to go beyond the concept of education literacy to include these ideas, a sort of a new Jamaica media literacy organization, so that all of us can be taught and made aware of how we as people will drive the vision of Jamaica's future, so that we can indeed become a place of choice to live, work, and raise our families. To do this, we need a flourishing media, a vibrant media that is resilient. We want institutions that are resilient and can stand to the shocks. We heard that some people had to let go people. We want institutions that are viable, that can be assured to not only have advertising content, but also public interest content. We want a country that has net neutrality. Why? Because we want to ensure that everybody's on the same highway, not one good highway for rich people and a pothole-filled poor internet highway for poor people. This is important. We want to make sure that our organizations understand the importance of lobbying for net neutrality. We want just, fair internet governance that ensures these new ideas around the right to be forgotten. Yes, we want private sometimes. The algorithmic rules, zero rating, encryption are understood not just by the Broadcasting Commission members, but by the people who are also using these systems so that democracy can weigh in. Now, how is this future emerging, you're saying? Well, 2030, 2040, 2050, 35 and 21, 2056, 2062. I'm big on 2062 because that's Jamaica's 100th independence. 2035, imagine this. Space solar systems. Yes, space to earth solar powered system. I'm on Lunaville again, and our test has passed the 30% threshold with 7% of electricity being powered by virtualized distributed solar. Can you believe that there will be something called wireless power. Yes, power that doesn't need a wire to run it. And I'm not talking about microgrids. I'm talking about using microwave dishes to push out power. And in other news in 2030, housing for all, we see that right there in Jamaica, Livewell Corporation will be giving away to 100 residents of its new senior citizens affordable housing development outside Montego Bay free holographic service. This is the future we will inherit, my friends, in a life that is highly urbanized globally, where we find that the world will have over 43 megacities with more than 10 million inhabitants. Don't worry about that. Jamaica have 10 million people around the world, just not in one place. Life will be highly connected. 53% of the global population is already connected to the internet, and that number is going to grow. The average person, it is said, will have and use at least 15 connected devices by the year 2030. Right now, I have 3 phones, so you know what I'm talking about. How many of us have 4 phones? Life in 2030 will mostly be mega class. Well, we hope, if we recover correctly after COVID and all the different things that countries around the world have been going, that we will move into a better life for more people. And so with a more highly middle class people and more affordable technology, we can expect even more connections, more smart devices. Because the smartphone alone won't be able to carry the burden of all the things we need to do in a connected way. We're going to be talking about smart watches, smart speakers, smart glasses, smart clothing, smart refrigerators, smart TVs, smart heating systems, even down to smart toilets. Yes, and this is why I talk about smart futures. So let's think about the trends. What are some of the trends? Software as a service, AI technology, user-generated content solutions, TV integrated with other home technologies are only a few of the things that are happening and driving change, like the fact that we have digitalization moving things along. In fact, we can be said live in an experience economy. People are driven by experience, and so all vendors of all products and services have to focus on improving the customer experience service. So we'll have more data, and of course, when ASTC 3.0 comes online, more streaming. This means the future of media will be different, but not just media, everything. And how might this future be different? We're talking about the future of the life as we know it. And if we jump into 2030, we can imagine, for example, that the Global Technology Association has succeeded in holding a hearing at The Hague about classifying holographic images of the founders of world religions as blasphemous. Yes, no holographic images of Jesus or the Buddha or the founder of the Sikh faith. All the interfaith community has come together and pushed for this because nefarious people have been using holographic images of Jesus to do all sorts of nefarious things. Can you imagine that happening only 9 years from now? I can. Just think. Life in the future, whether it's work, jobs, buildings and homes, governance, technology, citizens, consumers, will not just be a repeat of the past, but you can expect some jumps in things from here to there. So we're talking about 3D printing organs, 3D printing things like lab meat, 3D printing homes, for example. There'll be ocean thermal power. Telemedicine is going to be huge. Cryptocurrencies, well, the thing is out on that, but people believe that it'll be used at least for private B2B exchanges. Jobs of the future, AI ethicists, augmented reality journey builders, coding ethicists, telesurgeon, personal data brokers, robot recruiting, yes, avatar design, security consultant. All of these things are what we need. AI will be everywhere, ubiquitous, healthcare, education, media. In fact, there's talk about the singularity appearing in the year 2045. What if we build a supercomputer, given that quantum computing is now well on its way, that is more intelligent and faster than us humans? How will we manage future of content creation? We're talking about smart cams, smarter drones, latency-free wireless video monitoring, software broadcasting platforms to become cheaper and more affordable. And of course, production technology itself. We're talking about more virtual production. All of these things are going to be making it more so that more people can have more content and more eyes. I don't know how we're going to manage. Holographic TV is going to be huge by 2030. We're talking about even mixed reality where teachers can be live with a hologram and you have a virtual teacher and then you have the lessons in geology and chemistry. This has already been tested. This is not fantasy. This is real. And yes, 6G. 6G is on the horizon. And look how many countries are working feverishly. I'm saying to myself, 6G, we're not even sure how 5G work yet. Some of us still working on 4G phones. But yes, we are rushing ahead too fast. And this is why it's critical that we stop, take stock, and leaders get the ability to meet the future so that we can win it. How do we get future ready? 3 things we always ask is, what are we most afraid of? And what if what we fear the most were to actually happen? And what would the future look like if the things we dread were to actually come to be? These are ways in which we can begin to probe the future and look at things we have not thought about before, find our blind spots on our bias. So imagine 2031, for example. In Jamaica, Visit Jamaica VR LLC, we have a holographic concert live from the Reggae Hall of Fame in Kingston to mark the 50th anniversary of the transition of the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley, the man, the news, and the global icon. And can you imagine, there will also be holographic performances by Peter Tosh and Bonnie Whaler. And this will be, backed by the bands of the world live, Jamaica's triple winning band. Can you imagine a holographic concert beamed to millions of people around the world attending in hologram? These are some of the questions we might ask ourselves in broadcasting. How might AI impact on user case? What policies must we use to redirect and ensure cybersecurity regulations that will impact on the way we operate? How do we deal with social media mining to ensure that we're not unduly disfavoring one company over the next? These things require new competencies. Competence for media and digital literacy and competence for digital literacy. And they're not the same things. For sure, we need both. What a hope of things we have to go know for living in the future. We have to go smarter than robots for true. Because we have to understand not the critical engagement so we can understand what we're reading to be able to see if this is fake news or not. But we also have to understand how our devices work. To be future ready, we have to get ahead of the curve. It is about focusing on the key aspects of our ecosystem in this case, not just the business of media, but the broadcast ecosystem, to look at the policies and regulations we might want to put in place ahead of the time. You know how long it takes to get a law passed, so clearly we have to be way ahead if we're talking about being adaptable and being ready for the future that is coming. So, what are some critical success factors that leaders must have? Adaptability and agility. I can't say enough about those two. We have to hug up uncertainty and change and love it. We have to get used to realize that you're not going to step into the same river twice. Every day is different. We have to understand being capable of change. And in my Smart Futures framework, this adaptability and agility is something that we design for not just for ourselves, but for all the agents in the system. When we talk about smart leaders, we want to talk about developing the capacity to observe oncoming change systemically and with sensitivity and sensibility and identify emerging challenges. So we have to be system thinkers that can come up with metrics that matter and be adaptable and build for robust resilience and be transformational about our use of technology. These are the kind of leadership skills we'll need to be winners in this Industry 4.0 world. In fact, in talking about smart futures, I have thought about this because I'm saying to myself, how can we be less smart in our phones, our houses, our cars, and our cities? So we have to ask ourselves 5 questions. How is this system going to be sustainable? What are the metrics by which you should measure success? What are the aspirational of each agent in the system? How do we build for robust resilience? And how do we use technology to transform the society to the future we want? So I want to end by imagining the year 2062. Over 1 million Jamaicans, including myself at 104 years old, have gathered around the world to be online to attend the 100th anniversary of Jamaican celebration of independence in the hologram. Yes, it will be held in the hybrid virtual island of Jamaica. It's a virtual digital twin of the real Jamaica, my dear. And they have a big stadium in there that can hold millions of people. That is the future I imagine for Jamaica 2062. So please think, how can you move from future shock to future sense? By employing the power of your mind to imagine differently. The future is ours to create. Give thanks, because our ability to create is a gift from God. Thank you so much for allowing me this few minutes to share these ideas with you.
Dr. Claire Nelson. This is where we drop mic, brain goes, and we say thank you. Dr. Claire Nelson, author of Futurist, sustainability engineer, social entrepreneur, and a fantastic storyteller. If ever you were my lecturer, let me tell you something. I would never miss a class. I would never miss a beat. Thank you so very much, because we understand that the topic of media trends is huge. It is large, so many things changing, so many moving parts, and yet still you are able to make it as digestible as possible in a manner that we can understand how big this is and how big we need to look. Now, before we go any further in our question and answer segment, just kindly allow me to apologize for Mr. Kofi, who would have been our second keynote speaker behind Dr. Nelson, but he is having connectivity issues. He will not be able to present in his time right now, but we certainly hope that he'll be able to join us later on. For those of you, the attendees, within the Hopping platform, there is a poll that is up there. When you see the comment section, just look right above, and there is a poll that is being asked of you. Takes 1 second to respond. And so we now invite you to post your questions in the question and answer chat box so that we can get right to it. Now, Dr. Nelson, let me just get into this very quickly. I heard you speak about so many different things, needing to have adaptability, understanding, having agility, understanding digital literacy being a different thing from media literacy. How does that stack up with how we educate our children, our students, our citizens? Because you said we want to move from future shock to future sense, and it sounds like to be future ready, we need to have all of these skills and to develop so many different things. Do you think education-wise we're there?
We are not there. We have a good way to go. Critical thinking skills are vital. One of the things I complain about, even at St. Jude's High School, is the fact that we are spoon-fed and we have to just study things. And thank God that these textbooks are different. But even the things that we're studying now have not been able to keep us going forward with the problems and challenges that we are facing. I think we need to think critically about the future we want and redesign even the textbooks that we're using to really train us to think about the critical skills. So, for example, if we're talking about science literacy, everybody has to understand science, and we need to be able to have even primary school children being able to analyze the trees in their schoolyard to understand what a mango is and how what is in a mango. So we use what we have as opposed to only thing about where we can't afford a lab. And furthermore, with the new technology, we can actually put all of this virtually. These kids today are much better now. So you can give them a virtual mango. They have the real mango, which they know. And then they can do a scientific experiment, virtual mango, while they're actually eating a real mango.
The integration,
because their minds are more elastic than ours were, because they're used to being digitally connected. For those of us who are from our age group, we have to unlearn new skills. So, for example, I still don't know how Facebook really works. I mean, I use it, but I don't know how it really works. And every day they change the algorithm. So I'm like, what the use of me trying to learn, right?
Yes.
But the fact is, all of us need to be digitally literate, and children have to be taught what it means, because if you're going to be using a tablet and you don't understand how the tablet works, you don't understand how the algorithms are feeding you videos of this clothes or this shoes or this popcorn or this fattening sweet drink. I mean, we don't want to get to the point where we have to put a law on every single thing to protect people. We want people to still be conscious thinking beings. And so we have to become as smart as our phones, and certainly be smarter.
Absolutely. And something that you said, which is very important, because it goes back to having agility and adaptability, means that we need to be able to unlearn and relearn. And we have to be in a constant state of learning and changing and assimilating, correct?
Oh. Yes, and matter of fact, I like to say I became a futurist when I heard myself say one day at the age of 35. This is when they were converting DOS to Windows. I was in my early 30s or late 20s, and I heard myself saying, I remember it, "Man, you're gonna learn something new again, sure." And when I heard myself, I was like, shock and horror. I was so shocked. I'm like, my God, you sound like an old person already. And that was when I pledged to myself to never let that word come out of my mouth. And you know what? I found that it's actually fun to be in a state of continual learning.
I agree.
So because there's so much, you never get bored. And for those who get bored easily, it's so much fun to always find a new way of doing something, new way of gardening, a new way of cooking something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be about learning a new science or something, but find something new to learn to keep your brain cells operating, and try to learn something on both sides of your brain. We like to talk about being right brain or left brain, but I want more people to come to understand that we have to develop both sides of our brain to be fully literate, because to be futures literate, for example, means that the power of your imagination has to be turned up. So when I talk about 2062 and the Hall of Fame, the regular Hall of Fame, the real one, which I hope we have by then, please God, right? Along with the virtual one, which we're going to build in Jamaica, the digital twin of the island.
In 2062,
Can you imagine all the Jamaicans around the world, right, signing on in holographic form? No, I sat on this is blow. I got so excited just dreaming it up and how it could work and what the science is today and how it could happen. And it's not fantasy. It could really happen.
I think what it is the disconnect. You know, we hear about digital and we hear about all of these amazing things, but we don't necessarily connect it to how we could actually let this, create this space. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your book. I mean, I've always been fascinated by futurists and how they're able to look at trends and to be able to take what they know now and predict, if you will, the future, smart futures for a flourishing world. How did you even come up with that topic, and when will it be released?
Well, it's actually, I think, live on Amazon in an e-form tomorrow or Monday. But first of all, let me correct you. Any futurists that tell you that they predict anything, run them, right? Because you have to be clairvoyant and have special powers by God Almighty to be able to predict. Right? So what we do is we prognosticate, or we help people uncover various alternative versions of the future. And so in the case of the book, I was bold enough to go outside of the confines of what the publisher asked me to do and begin in what I call no time. And Nancy makes an appearance in no time. Because my contention is that if we start recognizing that we have to plan for a sustainability world, that when people are digging up the ruins of Kingston in the year 10,000 AD, 8,000 years from now, they can find the fact that we tried to save ourselves from disaster. They can find the fact that we tried to save ourselves from disaster in terms of, hurricane and coastal zone erosion, because we are on the precipice. And so the book is a combination of story, where I talk about the mythology of Nancy meeting with all the gods of the world to help to convince them to not destroy humans again, through several scenarios in real time from the year 3000 back to the year 2030, and that is juxtaposed against the history that brought us to the sorry past. The history of the Judeo-Christian ethic about climate and conquest and quantifying things, right, that have led to a capitalist society which no longer serves us. The first thing I want people to remember is that the GDP is dead. The person that made the GPD is dead. We have to get the World Bank, the IDP, the UN to move towards Kate Wayworth's thinking, which is about donut, which I prefer the word lifesaver economics, that takes into account the real boundaries of our natural world.
Yeah.
And in that space, therefore, we use SMART, and I use SMART because I want to be smart, to really describe 5 questions that anybody can use to design a policy, a program, a product, or a process.
Yes.
Right? And guess what? You don't have to take no exam because the questions are in the book. You don't have to sign up for no class. You don't have to be certified, because on this spaceship Earth, there are no passengers. We are all crew.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And by the way, for those of you who are watching, we're going to be asking questions, and you could actually get the opportunity to win one of those, the copies of her book. I have a question here from Archibald Gordon. How important will it be for us to also create the technologies? A lot of our current focus is on using technology created by others. So how about us being creators versus consumers? What say you?
I would like the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical ecosystem in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, in the small island states to come together in a new way. This is why on June 7th of this year, I launched something called World Island Day in an attempt to convince the Alliance of Small Island States. I'm talking loud and I'm throwing stone and whoever is listening to me, because they do not include engineers and scientists at the table when they're at the UN pontificating about all this funding for climate. And so we have engineers in the Caribbean that are designing things. We have scientists that are coming up with, for example, curatives for COVID and prophylactics that nobody is funding. And we need to make sure our financial class becomes financially literate and understand that there is as much to be made in supporting a startup to look at biotech or biomedicine in the Caribbean as it is to sell a Porsche on Nutsville Boulevard. Why are we selling Porsches in Jamaica? I have no idea. Can you imagine what that one Porsche could do to get a couple of startups off the ground to look at agri-tech, to look at supporting those people who are designing tools for composting or for solar energy or for, more importantly, for ocean thermal energy? We need to have greater investment because, yes, we're small, but if we talk about the 55 small island states, engineers especially, coming together in a new way, I think we can move mountains. And what this pregnant pause or this holy transition of COVID has taught me is that I have got so much accomplished in the last 18 months because I was so terrified that this is the end, right?
Correct. Productivity, maximization, optimization.
Setting up engineering partnerships on the phone with Nigeria, Kenya, talking about doing solar energy in space. This is not fantasy. I'm actually talking to someone about creating a pilot research to talk about solar energy in space. So I'm saying that there are things that we can do even as small nation. And the one thing I want us to do is I want the Caribbean islands to come together to launch our own constellation of satellites. And this is why I talk about being the first Jamaican on the moon. We are living in a space economy. Every GPS, every time we search for something on our smartphones, we're using space. How many classes in Jamaica are being taught to understand how it is information comes from space to a satellite? So we need to have science literacy at a younger age. And the beauty about this moment is that because of the COVID, we're now going to be able to move towards hybrid learning, where we can tap into the diaspora and have a sort of a online science school that will allow those scientists who are here doing all kinds of fantastic things in all these great universities around the world, Canada, the UK, Scotland,
accessibility,
to give back in a new way, because now we can run this. In fact, I want to propose perhaps partnering with what is it, the PCBJ, Public Corporation of Broadcasting in Jamaica, to create a new MOOC online broadcasting science literacy classes that the Futures Forum could do with them as a result of this conversation, because we can't just come and chat and nothing happens. Something has to change. And when the minister was here, so if she's gone to Parliament, please give her the message that I think that the BCJ can partner with the PCBJ to launch this series that allows us to bring together our scientific minds, no matter where they are, right? And begin to build the capacity to create. A matter of fact, I didn't finish my story, but in my story about being the first Jamaican on the moon, we actually are the arbiters of something called the Space Goodwill Games.
Yes.
And so Jamaica gets to have a team. Now we don't have the shuttle to bring us up. So we go up on the Nigerian shuttle. But Jamaica is a hotbed of activities where all other island states join with us to build our team of instrumentals, instrumentation, and the vehicles and automotive things that will be on the moon racing in this first games that I have created. So I'm talking about something which for me is very real. And somebody told me, I was like, my storytelling coach said, you can't talk about things which are not real. I said, I'm creating a new genre.
You absolutely can. You absolutely
can. It's a new genre. I'm talking about prospective memoir. And the reason why foresight and storytelling in the future is so important, because your brain, having heard the story, takes the information, puts it in a cell somewhere, and when you meet up in a situation that's close to it or similar to it, it goes click, 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 and retrieves that memory.
It accesses it. Absolutely.
And this is why athletes who rehearse in their mind winning, who rehearse making the shot, do better, because their mind begins to believe. Manifest it.
Yes.
The power of intention is real.
It is.
It has been tested, not just on the personal level, but on the global level in a book called The Intention Experiment.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Nelson? No, go ahead. Finish your point.
What if Jamaica was to really set its intention to really go after Vision 2030 in a new way? So that when I go on the website, I am seeing the dashboard that is sexy, not what I'm seeing right now. When I go on the website and I click, I don't see old stale news from 2017, but I'm seeing what's happening right now. What if we can get mind to actually begin to teach foresight to people who are working in strategic planning units of all the ministries, so that we can get people together and all the industry associations as well, so we can come as a whole to imagine Jamaica. The last thing I must say, what if we can come together to imagine a Jamaica where the problem of violence has been tamed? What does that look like, smell like, feel like? What are people doing?
No, absolutely. I see Nadine Blair so true, Master Forbes. She started out like a bullet, and it was a non-stop flight filled with eye-opening and mind-jerking info. Fabulous. I certainly hope that you guys are using the hashtag BCJ35th. Now, we have about 3 minutes, but I have to squeeze in this question, and this is from Sonia Gill, who says, Dr. Nelson's vision is very exciting, but is it feasible when 51% of the world isn't connected to the internet? ITU 2021. Isn't the first priority addressing digital poverty before we can speak about all of this digital literacy and everything else that is futuristic? We have 3 minutes.
Well, as we like to say, you have to walk and chew gum. Or in this case, you have to walk and eat a mango. You can't say, first we do this and do when we do that, because time is speeding up, right? So we have to make sure that those who currently have phones, smartphones, are digitally literate, and then each one teach one. Because you know how we love for show off already. So if I actually knew how Facebook could work, next time somebody asks me, I wouldn't just go like, Lord, me there, me just use it, I know it really work. I could say, Lord, what did you? The algorithm, you go here and you find this information. So I am saying that because we have all this power in our hands, right? If we teach those that have the power, I believe the fact that people are prone to collaboration, we have a new mindset shift. The generation that's coming is more into collaboration versus competition. And in fact, history has shown that humans collaborate more than they compete. But guess what? The media doesn't tell those stories. So one of the things I'm proposing also is that we also have a space, what we call good news stories. We have to feed that which we want to create.
Absolutely. 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 Doctor, well, Davian Stewart says, I could listen to this woman whole day. Yes, I'm convinced I need to get that book. Well, if you are able to answer some of the questions that I throw out as an advanced copy, could be yours. I hope that Dr. Nelson will have her book in audio format so that we can hear all the accent and the vibe.
And especially Anansi story part.
Anansi story. I grew up on Anansi, so thank you so very much. As a lot of our attendees have said, brilliant presentation, Dr. Nelson. Not only that, representation is always important, and it's good to also see people from Jamaica in these positions telling these stories, because again, it makes it more real. It makes it more possible for a lot of us. So you gave us a lot to think about, reimagining, re-engineering how we teach, how we educate, dreaming but becoming doers. Collaboration and integration are key. So in 2062, when you are 104 years old, you and I will be in the holographic stadium, and we will be enjoying Jamaica's 100th. Dr. Claire Nelson, thank you so very much. Fantastic.
Thank you. And just one last word, people, remember our national pledge. Learn it. It's that pledge that carries me through the world.
Yes.
So that Jamaica may do her part to advance the whole human race. Jamaica to the world.
To the world! And Olympics is coming around. So thank you so very much. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Listen, I don't know about you, but I found that to be absolutely amazing. Remember, the BCJ did promise that our sessions would be enlightening and engaging and entertainment. Who would have known that engineering and science and futurism and media and communication could be packed in such a powerful package that is Dr. Nelson? If you enjoyed her presentation, if you had any particular takeaway, please drop it in the chat, like, share, comment, use the hashtag BCJ35th. Certainly a fantastic way to start off our session. So I hope you you participated in the poll. I'm actually waiting for the results. The question was, if social media maintains its current characteristics, it will in the future strengthen globalization and societal harmony. So the question is, do you disagree, somewhat disagree, have no opinion on it, somewhat agree, or do you agree? The answers are in. 15.6% agree, 31.3% disagree, 10 votes, some 12.5 disagree, and 40.6 somewhat agree. So again, the question was, if social media maintains its current characteristics, it will in the future strengthen globalization and societal harmony. So the majority of the person said that they somewhat agree. I just want to take the opportunity to thank and to acknowledge again our Jamaica Sign Language interpreters, who are doing a fantastic job keeping our deaf community abreast of everything that is happening here. What a fantastic way. So we're moving to our second session. Wow, Dr. Nelson just came and blew up the spot. And you know what? It will only get better. Reminding you, I'm going to start doing giveaways after the next session, and you could win advanced copies of Dr. Nelson's book. Now, a lot of the times when we speak about media and broadcasting and communication, we speak about it from adults' perspective. It's what we think and what we predict and what we want and what we need. And very few times do we actually bring children to the table. Like, what do they think? What are their thoughts about connectivity and media and broadcasting? Well, session 2 is going to be quite an interesting conversation. And it is entitled, What the Future Says About the Future. And we welcome Miss Susan Symes, TV host of Kids Say, and of course the Susan Show, a fantastic producer right here in Jamaica. And she's in conversation with primary and high school children between the ages of 8 to 12. And she's going to be discussing the future of media. Now, although it's a pre-recording, Susan is actually here virtually. So any of your comments and questions, she will absolutely be delighted to address. So again, this is Miss Susan Symes, What the Future Says About the Future. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Susan, and our participants include aspiring entrepreneurs, YouTubers, robotics engineers, paleontologists, broadcasters, fashion models, lawyers, animators, and philanthropists. All have intentions to change the world. First up are our primary students ages 9 to 12 years old. Today we're going to talk about media, right? Because you guys are dissing my radio. It came from my house, okay? Why were you dissing my radio?
It's so old.
What do you mean it's old? You know how many things it can do?
How much thing?
A lot. I can record on a cassette.
The radio?
Yes, I can.
But you can do it on TV as well.
Yeah, but I'm not going to watch music on my TV.
Sure.
No. Do you watch music on your TV?
Of course.
You turn it on for the radio? You're not supposed to do that. What do you mean it's old? And it's not from the 80s, it's from the 2000s.
You see, a new decade has started, and the radio, barely anyone uses it anymore. We all have the radio app on our phones, tablets, computers. We don't need it.
It's a part of my swag.
It can be used for nostalgic purposes, but it's old.
Yes, Ashuri?
It's a part of your old people squad.
Most persons are using the car radio.
So what do you use at home? You use your car radio at home? What do you use?
Or phone.
But it doesn't have good speakers like my
It
boombox.
has excellent speakers.
So you don't have a radio at home?
I do.
So tell me about that.
I just listen to a Battle Your Parent every weekday before I go to school.
What else do you listen to on the radio?
That's it.
It's 24 hours. What do you mean that's it?
That's it.
Battle Your Parents is not even 10 minutes long.
Yes, that's it.
In the evenings, whenever I'm at my grandparents' house, they like to listen to the 5 o'clock news.
Every single day. I just can't get tired of it because I hear it every single day.
The news is sometimes just depressing.
Exactly.
We need a break from all the
It's
violence.
traumatizing.
You don't listen to music?
No.
Talk shows?
No.
Do you even turn it on?
Yes.
Oh, you turn it on?
Yes.
Okay, and then turn it back off.
I don't turn it back off, no. We just let it play.
Okay.
When we're not here, we just let it play. In the night, we turn it off.
I don't listen to anything on the radio. It's very boring. It's not interesting at all. Because when I turn it on, right away I hear like old time people's like explaining herbs, and I'm not really interested in those things.
Well, honestly, I have absolutely no way to listen to the radio anymore because like my radio is broken, and like when I used to listen to it, it just felt completely boring. I used to listen to it like every single day. I just don't know what clicked and I just stopped. The only thing I would listen to would be a podcast because I usually listen to those in YouTube or Spotify.
So your radio is the internet.
Basically.
Right. You don't need a physical box like you saw outside just now.
Yeah, I don't need that.
We're young, so
You act like this does not exist.
To us, it does not exist.
That hurts.
I'm sorry.
So people my age,
I'm sorry.
that hurts because I grew up on the radio.
I'm sorry.
If you were to listen to the radio, what would you want to hear?
Music.
You want to hear music?
Lots of music.
Yeah, but you know they play their own music. It's probably not the music you like.
No.
So how would you get them to play the music you like?
I don't know. Call them and suggest some music genre.
Okay. You think they listen?
When you put it that way, I'm like, wait. Do they not take music suggestions?
even though I don't listen to it much, I would want to hear like kids giving other kids advice. Like, if one kid, like, say we are all going to, like, our teenage stage, like, all three of us, we'd want to hear, like, another kid that already went through that to give us, like, advice and help us go through it. So they could probably just put on a kids program for, like, probably, so, like, 12 to 2 o'clock.
Right.
And then, yeah, we'll be fine.
Why do you listen to talk shows?
Because they just talk and it sometimes get really deep and people can relate to it. And it's the same with podcasts, but podcasts is just the modernized version of talk shows to me.
Is radio for you? You said you don't like the physical box, so is radio for you like your phone? You would listen to audio tapes and audiobooks and podcasts and stuff like that?
Yes. Unless they're playing, like, Billie Eilish on the radio and, like, new artists.
So what would you listen to?
More children content on it. Because they're mostly adults on the radio. And sometimes that does not interest me. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And that's why we end up on Netflix or YouTube. Because we can find something that interests us. So if we could actually get more ideas from the children, because my mom told me that toys that are made for children, they weren't made by adults. The ideas came from the children.
Right.
Although I don't listen to radio as much as I watch TV or YouTube or Netflix, I would really like to listen to more programs hosted and listened to by children, like more cooking stuff. I'm into cooking. I would want to have a program that enhances cultural awareness so children can learn more about the history of Jamaica.
I made curry chicken the other day.
Nice. Okay, so you're into the cooking thing too.
Yes. Grandma said it was good.
And grandma said, what's that like living with your grandma? Because that's like two totally different eras. She listens to the radio.
Her favorite song is Justin Bieber. I think it's Sorry. Yeah. They think it's my mom. And then people always say that they wish that they're like her when they get older.
So what do you watch on TV?
Your show.
Thank you. Why?
I just like seeing when people get things and they're actually happy and know their life changed for the better.
So you want to see more feel-good stuff on TV?
Yeah. It's very heartwarming.
How about you, Joshua? What do you watch on TV?
Do some more animal stuff, cartoon stuff. What kids are interested in these days. Especially things we're doing online school.
Okay. What do you watch on TV?
Mostly cartoons, like SpongeBob.
What does that have to do with online school? Or because you're at home? I hope your teacher and your mom is not hearing this right now. Because they're supposed to be at school.
Yes, we're online, and then as soon as online school ends, we can easily just hop in our beds and watch TV the whole time. When we're at real school now, we have to wait until our parents come and we have no devices. We just have to sit inside of
No
the
phones allowed at school?
Phones are allowed.
But?
I don't, my mom doesn't allow me to carry it.
Is that a good thing?
No.
It's not a good thing for you.
It's boring.
It's good for her. She knows that you won't get into trouble.
No. And she said because my eyes need to rest, but I only use it after school. And it's 5 hours I have in school.
Yeah, I like watching movies, cartoons, and I have to watch the news. It's by force.
Because they're watching it?
And it keeps me informed so I know what's going on in the real world. It's good and bad at the same time because I don't want to watch it sometimes, but then I have to watch it. And I learned something.
How about you, Imani?
As Zaria said, I use the TV for online class sometimes. After online class, there is a program on TVJ where you can learn PEP topics, CXC topics, and CSEC topics. And it's actually very educational. I've learned lots of stuff.
Actually, I watched that too. It brings me back.
You learn lots of stuff about different subjects in language arts, math, social studies, and science. And I also mostly just watch Netflix on TV.
Okay.
YouTube videos, you know, about TikTok drama.
Here we go again with that TikTok drama. So what's the latest TikTok drama?
Well, there was a TikTokers versus YouTubers boxing match the other day. And Bryce Hall, he was so confident that he was going to win, but he didn't.
Lost.
And now it's just so embarrassing for the TikTok community because almost all of them lost.
And by far, YouTube is the best thing to watch in the pandemic. Like, it's just so entertaining. And on TikTok, you just have dancing videos. On YouTube, you can watch ASMRs.
What's our ASMRs?
Like when you're squashing something and you put it close to the mic and you squash it again and you listen to it, that's what the ASMR is. Like a satisfying.
I watched a video, it taught you to multiply, divide fractions. There are also cooking tutorials. You can even learn how to dance on it, yeah. And there's more entertaining stuff to it. Because sometimes I tell my grandma, ooh, I learned this. And then she asked me, where did I learn it from? TikTok.
You learn different math tricks that you can use, like in the 9 times table. You can just count down backwards for each digit.
I even watched a video they were telling me about if you don't like to do these things, then you shouldn't go into the real estate business.
Okay.
I just watch story times.
What's that?
Story times is basically people just talking about weird accidents or actions that happen to them. Anime is a different genre. It's a type of more serious version of a cartoon.
It sounds more adult to me, though.
It depends on what anime you're watching.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen some of those.
I've seen very bloody animes.
Okay.
And they were not nice.
When you get to that, though, are you still watching? I mean, or do you go
I just
to the
watch
other
for the
ones?
storyline and sometimes the fights, especially in Naruto.
Most of them that I search for, I'm expecting like kid friendly, but when I find them, it's not really kid friendly.
TikTok forms an algorithm, like it tracks what you're watching and then it shows you videos about what you're watching and videos that you would probably be entertained by.
There's something called a For You page. The majority of every video that you like with the same content, that comes on your For You page.
And when you first download the app, they ask you to select what are the things that you're interested in, like sports, food.
So every time you go on, it gives you something now. And trying to go select stuff for it. But is that a good thing, though? Does it mean that they're tracking you?
There's a thing that comes up, terms of use and private policy. When you first get the app and you open it, it says TikTok will not share any
Do you
personal
really read
data.
all that?
Yes.
If you don't want nobody to see a video, or you don't want no one to save it or add it to their favorites, you can just turn off that.
The fact that they can track what you're watching and know what you're like, it's kind of creepy. Google does the same thing as well. Even when your phone is locked, you're not using it. For example, the other day I was saying, oh, I want a new phone case. Guess what? I was on YouTube and an ad came up about phone cases. And it just keeps on coming up repeatedly, over and over.
All they did was say it?
Yes. All I
The
did was
phone
say it.
heard you say it?
Yes.
You did not type it in?
Nope.
That's artificial intelligence. I was trying to look for a gift for my sister because it was her birthday coming up in the next week. So I didn't click anything on the phone. I just said, I wonder what I should get for my baby sister. And a list of things just popped up on my phone about, you can get her a toy, you can get her a monkey, you can get her a stuffed bear, like just a list of baby items.
Are they watching us?
I think so. And it's not like you can delete Google off your phone, like it just stays on your phone.
Are you guys thinking of becoming content creators one day to make like your own program since you're not getting what you exactly want?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds cool. We now speak with our high school students ages 13 to 15 years.
I really do not listen to the radio unless my parents turn it on or something. The channel I listen to normally plays the music I like.
If I really can't find anything, I probably will just switch it on to some news. Mostly music, or if my dad is listening to Full House Fridays.
You find it fun?
Yeah, I find it fun because it shows you different types of music that you might not listen to on your own.
Radio is a very nice thing because you can sit back, relax, close your eyes, and as he said, you can imagine what goes on in it. Like the person is talking, you hear all the sound effects you can find. It's like it broadens your imagination. It's also very helpful for people like the visually impaired. Like they can sit down and listen.
Okay.
You can't be very visual with people who are blind.
But do you find that the programming has become stale? Would you change anything?
No.
I'm a more visual person. I like to watch things. So that's why I feel like radio is dying. I don't listen to it much.
So traditional media has no place for you?
No. TV, I like more because, as they said earlier, you can see what is happening. Some radio programs, like one I used to listen to when I was small, called Adventures in Odyssey, it allows you to imagine what's happening.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I like reading also.
If you should turn on a radio, what would you like to hear?
I would like to listen to some like novelty radio dramas. You know, get invested in the story. I think that'd be really interesting. And maybe they can make new radio dramas and more interesting and about newer topics.
Nice.
And that could probably get a lot of people interested in radio again.
How could they make it interactive though?
They could call people like on the phone, people answer, and they can like, they're on the radio now. And in the case of like radio drama, maybe they throw a loop into the plot. And now it's like the audience are making the plot. So it's like, it's a live story.
They could like put games that they think persons are more interested in. They could like call persons, talk about the games and ask them what they understand about the game and like play it for a few minutes.
I also think that radios are kind of old-fashioned. I like how they have now where you can have the app radios on your phone, and also you can go on Chrome and search up a radio station and listen to it.
Now here they have live in-studio stuff now. You can actually see someone on the radio.
Because they have a camera in the studio and connected to what they're talking on, so you can hear and see them.
Especially with the music parts of radio, I think they could ask people what they want to hear, because mostly for the music that I listen to, a lot of the times on the radio it's the same songs playing over and over.
The pros are you can have it at your fingertips. So those who are impaired, they have the radio.
So Javel, would you rather listen to podcasts, audiobooks?
Yes, I like podcasts.
You prefer watching stuff?
Yes, or reading.
So you read the newspaper?
No, I don't. But I read articles in things that I'm interested in.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's on the internet?
Yes.
What kind of content would you like to see on TV though?
About persons' living situation and like what person are going through in the world.
Social issues?
Yeah.
And then you would what, help them?
Yeah, I want to see person being helped.
The news seems to do a thing where it undermines some topics and it talks about more about other topics. So maybe it can start undermining the deaths and start talking about the positive things that happen.
So Abigail, do you think traditional media still has a place in today's world?
Not really. I feel like radio and television isn't used as much as, say, social media or just searching something up on your phone.
And why don't you think so?
I think using your phone is more convenient rather than listening to a radio or watching TV where you have to wait for a certain thing to show up.
When did that happen?
About 6th grade, I believe. I started to watch so much YouTube and I stopped watching cartoons, stopped watching TV. And at this point now, I never go on Cartoon Network.
Like 5th grade, I started to like realize every shows that come on TV now are like on the internet.
When I reached high school, I just didn't have the time to, because it airs at 4 p.m. on TBC, so I didn't really have the time because I have clubs and stuff after school like robotics and cadet. But when COVID came, I was already used to not listening to it, so I didn't.
So you didn't bother go back. What do you think can be done to media generally to include you more?
Maybe they could hold polls or something, or ask what the public or ask what the viewers would like to see, what type of content or what type of shows they would like to see. So maybe that would get more people engaged and watching it.
They're not really looking at what the viewers are talking about, but they're looking at the views. A lot of people are watching the content. A lot of the time people don't support it, but because they really like the channel and they really like the persons making it,
Okay.
they will still try to support it even though they don't like the product.
I don't know about you, but I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I want to do a quick shout out to Susan because you really got a great group of children. We saw the younger ones from primary and prep school, and she also was able to engage the older children. But what did you think about their comments? You know, Susan, I'm so sorry. The younger children called you, you're a part of the old people squad. You know, they spoke about traditional media in terms of old time people explaining herbs. Somebody said it was nostalgic, you know, but what I found very interesting is that a lot of the children knew about privacy policy. Some of them spoke about artificial intelligence. A lot of them spoke about getting content that is personalized for them, having them represented in the media more often. That is something that they wanted more of. There were some that spoke about podcasting, which was very interesting because podcasting is simply radio that has evolved, but yet still they didn't really like radio, but they enjoyed podcasting. And again, I think it's because it's very niche, it's very specialized. They spoke about relatability, connectivity, as well as personalization. Certainly what I was also a takeaway from the older child, one of the youngsters there, was when he spoke about radio and saying it may not necessarily be something for everyone, but for persons who are visually impaired, that is something that would benefit them. So it's good to also see that they're thinking about other persons in society and how traditional media may not necessarily be for them, but that it could actually benefit someone else. Great conversation, and I wish we could hear a lot more. Kimberly Samwood says, very informative and commercial aware. And that's very true because my daughter is 9 and she can tell you she doesn't click on many things. She doesn't give her real name. She has her avatars in different names because she says, Mommy, you never know who is listening. And I'm like, thank you. I'm actually the older one. And I've taught you that, but it's good to know that you're keeping it in mind. Fantastic session. BCJ did such a great job at keeping all of these sessions engaging, enlightening, and entertaining. So that was what the future says about the future. So now we move from Susan Symes and our children speaking about traditional media and new media, and now we move to our next conversation. But before we do that, we had put up another poll. The persons who are attendees within Hopin, you are asked, traditional TV, radio, and print media will not exist. This was the poll, and you still have time to respond. Traditional TV, radio, and print media will not exist. Do you agree? Somewhat disagree? Have no opinion? Somewhat agree? Or 100% agree? I cannot wait to get your answers. Now, we did say that we were doing some giveaways. We're taking one winner from Hopin platform and one winner from social media. Dr. Claire Nelson mentioned a particular acronym, and it was VUCA, V-U-C-A. And she explained what VUCA meant. What does VUCA mean? You will get an advanced ebook copy of her book. First person to respond accurately on either platform, on Hopin or on the social media platforms. Dr. Claire Nelson mentioned the term VUCA. It's an acronym. What does it mean? We will definitely let you know who the winners are. I'm actually waiting for my results for the poll that we asked. Traditional TV, radio, print media will not exist. Disagree, somewhat disagree, have no opinion, somewhat agree, or agree. And our first giveaways to the first person who can tell us what VUCA means. I'm going to see who is going to Google very quickly. And again, there's so many other books that we're going to give away, so many other copies. And so you have to be paying attention. So that is it. We're going to wait for the very first winner, and then we're going to move to our very next discussion. So session 3, media trends. Okay, we have the answers. So for the poll, 17.2% of you agree that it will not exist. 41.4% somewhat agree. 24.1% somewhat disagree. And 17.2% of you actually disagree. So basically, the largest number of you somewhat disagree. So you guys still believe that these things will be available. Traditional TV, radio, as well as print media. All right. Thank you so very much for participating. We're still waiting for our winner. So we move to session 3. Media trends, visioning the next 35 years. And this session will explore how media has evolved and the future direction of traditional media, as well as the future of online communities and alternatives to the existing forms of social media. This discussion will also delve into the reasons for Jamaica's ranking as one of the top countries for freedom of expression and freedom of the press, and how this can be preserved in an environment of disruption by technologies such as AI and machine learning. I'm so pleased to have a co-moderator for this particular session. We have fantastic panelists lined up, and my co-moderator for this morning is none other than Miss Andrea Millwood Hargrave, Principal of Millwood Hargrave Limited. And she's an independent consultant with a keen interest in policy making and its consequences in the converging communications environment. Most recently, the IIC's Director of Regulatory Forum. Andrea was the IIC's Director General from February 2009 to March 2020. She has published widely on media policy in an international context, and she has certainly been a regulator for content delivery for organizations in the UK for many, many years. Andrea Millwood Hargrave, welcome.
Thank you very much indeed, Terry Carell. I'm a bit mind blown here, what with Dr. Nelson and then the young people making me feel very old, talking 35 years hence.
Old people squad, apparently, we're old.
I think if you're over 25, you're definitely old for them. So, what was interesting, of course, was Dr. Nelson demands that we think big, and she insists that Jamaica does think big. Absolutely. And you suggested and you talked about the fact that Jamaica has a very strong tradition of freedom of expression and the crucial role of journalists and their status in the world of information. What we're here to discuss is what challenges are there and how are they being addressed and what more can be done. I'm going to lead off with the first speaker, who's Darisia Wilkinson, and then hand over to you. Darisia is a PhD candidate in human-centered computing at Google. And importantly, I think she designs and evaluates usable interfaces for people, in particularly privacy interfaces and recommender systems. And she develops them with the person at their center. And one of the speakers in the very last session spoke about the need for consultation, the need for understanding what it is that people need. Over to you, Darisia.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Andrea. Yes, so I think this is a very important topic, and we have to acknowledge that we live in unprecedented times. When I was in primary school, for example, and I needed to learn about some international event that was happening in, let's say, Germany, I had to be resourceful. Either I stayed glued to the radio for the 6 o'clock news, or I made the trot down the road to the corner shop so I could get a hold of the local newspaper. But the way that we consume media today has taken a 360. So if my little sister wants to know that same information, a quick refresh on Twitter would give her links to reputable news articles, videos from people on the ground, and of course, memes about the entire event and hashtags so you could religiously keep track of it. It's just different. And there are clear benefits to this, but also not so obvious drawbacks that have to be addressed. Social media in particular has grown to be a very powerful tool in the midst of like disasters, but it's also rife with both misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Generally, misinformation is information that is false, but the person who is disseminating it believes it to be true. Evidence of this appeared during the recent eruption in St. Vincent. So persons were using social media to keep track, to keep the world informed, keep their family members up to date about what's going on. But then false information about possible eruptions happening in neighboring islands started to be spread rapidly on WhatsApp. So the emergency center there was quick to respond, and they made sure to clearly label information coming from trustworthy sources. In a similar way, we see social media sites have made considerable strides towards verification and content moderation to minimize misinformation. And a lot of citizens have grown to be careful fact checkers as a result of this misinformation. On the other hand, we see disinformation, which is information that is false, and the person who is disseminating knows it is false. An example of this would be when I had to make a post explaining that 5G was indeed not the cause of corona. And we see like we have different persons. They might be exposed to this type of information. Like, let's say if you go on your news feed, you typically click on information like this. The algorithms might assume that that is your viewpoint. So then you're kind of stuck in a filter bubble where persons, once you have this particular viewpoint, the algorithms continue to feed you that because they assume that you like that. And this could be really dangerous because you're not exposed to different views and opposing sides. So you could have the overall holistic view of a particular topic. In a similar vein, we have malinformation that could have severe consequences for how persons engage online. For example, when private conversations or private photos are leaked with the intention of harming that person. And this could have like a major impact. Let's say if you are a journalist and you're typically investigating very sensitive topics and your personal information is leaked, then one, that has some possible issues with the topic that you are investigating, but also like just personal safety issues for that journalist. So in response to all of this, we see globally laws being in place, being enforced with fines for like the creation and distribution of misinformation, which is great, make it a good headway in the right direction. But also you have to acknowledge that this could be negative. So this could also be used to intimidate journalists into being silenced. So we have to consider like if we're adopting these types of legislation, like how would that impact, how would it be more appropriate like for the Caribbean context. Then online, we see social media companies pushing to remove or flag potentially misleading content. And again, this is good, but on the flip side of this, content moderation is far from accurate. In a lot of cases, inappropriate content often slips through the cracks, while factual information gets banned sometimes. And this, of course, restricts discourse, and it could be detrimental for journalists and activists who get banned, whereas persons who are trolling, they get to push their content. So in all, we find we're in a position where the onus is pretty much on the user, but issues related to transparency and control might not necessarily be in their favor. So we're at a position where we have to make a push. We have to make a push where the average user could understand like what is being done like with their data, to understand like what recommendations are pushed to them, like how the algorithms are consuming their data, to better understand the information being pushed to them, and what level of control persons could get in just having some sense of control over their user experience online.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. I thought that was an extraordinary presentation of the different types of information. I have one question. I'm using my prerogative here. You talk about inappropriate content regulation, and just very quickly, because I know we have to move on, very quickly, what can be done about inappropriate or any content regulation? How do you actually reflect what happens? People talk about community standards, for example.
Sure, yes. Yes, so when it comes to content moderation, there's not even like one solution. It's a very tough area. So we see a lot of people in industry, so the big companies, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, as well as academics. I think the key is transparency both in the sense of making sure people understand like where information is being come from, so the source itself, but also a lot of transparency like on the user side. So if I'm in a case where I click on something related to something political, some particular view, not necessarily because I clicked on that means I want to be fed that information forever. So like having some control over my algorithmic data pretty much will go a long way in helping to control what type of content is being fed to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure there are other questions. I'd like to hand over to Terry Carell now to introduce the next speaker.
Thank you so very much, Andrea. Thank you, Darisia, and welcome. All right, so a reporter, producer, and news anchor at Television Jamaica with over 8 years. He looks young, by the way. When you see him, you're going to be like, how did he manage to do this in 8 years of experience in the media industry? Vashon Brown is an award-winning journalist who has been the producer of TVJ's flagship current affairs program, All Angles, for the past 4 years. He has also served as a director of the Press Association of Jamaica. He is a graduate of the Northern Caribbean University and will be pursuing a Master of Science in Media Communication and Development at London School of Economics and Political Science. He's also a Chevening Scholar, and I'm so pleased to say that I know him personally. Vashon Brown, so proud of all of your achievements. Welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Terry, and thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. So I'll be zooming in on some of the changes that are happening in the media landscape. Now, I want to start by first looking at this quote from Dews, one of my favorite media scholars. Now, he says, journalism as it is coming to an end. The boundaries between journalism and other forms of public communication are vanishing. Now, even though he says journalism as it is coming to an end, I think he wants to draw our attention to the significant changes that are happening within the media landscape, because historically, print and later electronic media were the main vehicles for used to disseminate information to members of the public. But now we see the rise of social media. And so I want to speak about some of the changes that are taking place. Now, I believe that when we talk about changes in media, we oftentimes zoom in on the technological changes and very often not realize that some of the changes that are happening within the media landscape are also operational. So I want to talk a little bit about the newsroom and how that is really changing. So usually journalists spend full 8 hours working in offices or at their desk or somewhere in this centralized location. But more and more we see that journalists are not working in this physical space called the newsroom anymore. Now, we can say that that's perhaps because of the pandemic, but when I was a student at London School of Economics, I pursued a study looking at journalism in Jamaica. And one of the findings was that, this was pre-pandemic, was that more and more journalists were spending time away from this physical space called the newsroom. And so newsrooms as traditionally understood are disappearing. Now, some scholars have gone as far as to say that newsrooms as traditionally understood do not exist anymore, but it is helpful to no longer think of the newsroom as a physical structure where journalists gather to write and present stories. It can now be argued that there's now a new construction of what the newsroom is in this social media era. So journalists can spend very little time in this physical space and still produce their stories for broadcast. So this is not just easy for print journalists, but we also have cell phones and all those wonderful things to make this something easy for broadcast journalists as well. And then there's the issue of multi-skilling. Now, because we have online now, journalists are now being called upon to work for TV, radio, online. And for me, a key question arises here as we go into the next 35 years. is multi-skilling something that benefits journalists and media workers, or is this something that is solely done for profit? So by that I mean, is employing one person to do the job of 3 something really that benefits that individual? Or is it not a way for companies to simply save money? So we talk about multi-skilling in the context that, you can now beef up your resume, you've worked for radio, TV, and online, but this is obviously something that I believe should be looked at from a very critical perspective as we go into the next 35 years. We also see the creation of new jobs because of the rise of digital technologies. And so more and more companies are now employing social media coordinators. They're also creating departments specifically to deal with social media. And so those are some of the changes that are happening at the newsroom level. But then the changes aren't all good. I mean, we speak now about the rise of fake news. We heard a little bit earlier on about disinformation. Now, scholars do not all agree about what fake news is, and it is a very, very contested debate. But I prefer this definition that speaks about this element of deliberate attempt to mislead people. And so more and more we see this emerging in our country. We oftentimes think about fake news as something that affects larger and more established democracies like the United Kingdom and the United States, but this is definitely something that's affecting us locally, and more media houses are trying to beef up gatekeeping functions to ensure that fake news that originate online do not end up in the traditional media space, and we've seen some examples of that. Now, I believe in 2019, the Broadcasting Commission drew our attention to this particular issue in the context of regulation and whether it is not time for us to expand the current regulatory offerings to include some control of fake news and the hate speech that originate online. Now, this is not something that we talk a lot about, but I do believe that we need to get in tune with the discussions around regulation and have more conversations about that. Because in the United Kingdom, for example, I believe many people have moved beyond whether there is a need for regulation to start talking about who will do the regulating, whether it would be the UK Parliament, etc., etc. And so more discussions around that, I believe, should take place. And my final point is about citizen journalism. And I raise a question here as well as to, has the rise in citizen journalism, especially online, made it difficult for journalists to maintain control and power over content? I mean, I do think that it sort of shifts the balance of power, but I also think that journalists should not see citizen journalists, especially those online, as any sort of threat. Because, I mean, I'm sure that we'd love to be, but we can't be everywhere at once. And so we can easily get a video of a child being beaten with a cutlass somewhere in rural St. Thomas, or a video of a police shooting in St. Anne. And these are stories that we can further develop and advance and have critical national discussions about. So whether it is about corporal punishment, whether it is about the use of force of police officers, these are stories that perhaps we would not have gotten or would not have gotten national attention had it not been for these videos that surfaced online. And so I believe that citizens are very, very important in the work that we do as journalists. I believe I've used up all my 6 minutes, so I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Vashon. I mean, you were able to absolutely succinctly put all of those topics together. I do have a comment here from Donna Parchment Brown who says, thank you. These are issues of concern as abusive or false content have negative impact on tone and nature of politics. This creates more hostility and harms policy and slows legislation. A very quick question for you as we speak about the misinformation, the disinformation, and as you rightfully try to, with clarity, speak about people who deliberately try to mislead. As we try to deal with that, do you think that regulation goes beyond just trying to gatekeep, but also holding these people responsible? Is it even possible to regulate persons who are popping up every now and then across different accounts, sharing all kinds of content that can be absolutely harmful to societies? Do you think that's how far it should go?
That's a very, very complex one, Tara, because, I mean, we can all agree that there is a need for something to be done. One of the discussions featured on whether, for example, it is a space for the specific social media sites to regulate? For example, Facebook, Twitter, do they have any sort of role in regulation? The conversation also features on, for example, when Twitter takes off somebody from online because of fake news, are they overreaching? Do these big tech companies have too much power, and should they really be the one regulating? And I believe that, you know, that's where our discussion should go. How do we do this kind of regulation? Now, as a journalist, I want to clearly point out that I do not support any sort of state regulation of these kinds of platforms because of the implication it would have on journalism, because we know that media houses operate online. And so it is important for this regulation conversation to definitely take place locally.
I appreciate it. And again, this is a part of visualizing and visioning our 35 years, right? Thank you so very much. Don't go too far, because we will have questions and answers later on after we hear from all of our panelists. Thank you so very much, Vashon Brown. We have just a quick comment from Marcia Forbes. Vashon, crushing a sore corn, multi-skilling, developing individual skills or for companies' profits. Continue to use the hashtag BCJ35th. Andrea, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Fact-checking, gatekeeping, regulation. I think we'll come back to these issues time and again. But next up, we have Stacey Russell, and she will take us further. In fact, she's a law graduate and a media and communications consultant who counsels, among other areas, a cross-section of digital end users in online safety as an ambassador for the charity Get Safe Online. Interestingly, importantly, Stacey speaks from her own experience, having been subject to a phishing attack that led to her password being compromised, leading to both data and financial loss. Without further ado, I hand over to Stacey.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for having me. I listened so intently to the last two of my fellow panelists. And now I'm convinced more than ever that the changing face of the digital world that we're living in will become more and more complex in the next 35 years. The increasing online, ubiquitous, and interactive nature of media products is becoming the new normal and will set the future media landscape. And this trend, with all the opportunities that it brings, throws up nasties, such as malicious harms that Daracia mentioned. We don't only need to make cybersecurity a priority in complementing and safeguarding all that we do now, we will need cybersecurity to become embedded in the psyche of media practitioners at all levels. Media managers will have a pivotal role to play in underpinning those changes to newsroom structures that Vashon mentioned, with continuous cybersecurity analysis. I mean, Vashon was just talking about the fact that journalists can be any part of the country and be working for a media house. And therefore, it really brings into question this whole business about implementation of adaptable, up-to-date online safety and security measures so media organizations can truly flourish without being hamstrung. This means going beyond what typically obtains now of focusing on IT infrastructure, connectivity, and even backing up, but having a governance framework in place to control cyber and information security. Business insurance will have to routinely cover cyber liability, an aspect of coverage that most insurance companies do not even yet offer in the Caribbean. So there are conversations to be had about this. Citizen journalism that Vashon talked about says that an education framework for those working outside of the traditional news will become paramount. And being proactive in addressing the mitigation of risks to cyber attacks and dealing with cyber crime and data breaches when they do occur, not if, but when, has to be a part of the new normal. So let's talk about governance. Setting up, directing, and monitoring this framework should be the responsibility of the board or business owner, depending on the size and nature of the organization. supported by heads of operational business units and specialist departments. Now, we know so many people work on a freelance basis, and the onus will be on them to educate themselves, to include this as part of their business planning and costings. Typically this group should ensure that a cyber and information security strategy and assurance program are in place and are the responsibility of someone in the business who is at a level to make decisions, or equivalent. And it's vital that that framework and strategy, that they're reviewed and are where necessary, updated either periodically at intervals to be determined in the framework or as needs arise. This is to allow for changes in business model, company growth, working practices, and so on and so forth, whether you want to team up in partnerships, new technology updates, and so forth. And let's have a quick look at risk assessments, information risk assessment, and the assessment criteria that should be going into this. You should be looking at confidentiality, integrity, availability. The acronym CIA makes these criteria easy to recall. The confidentiality of information such as HR or payroll records, the integrity of information which has to be accurate and remain so in order to maintain key functions of an organization or an individual's work. The availability of information when it's required, such as employee timesheets at the end of the month or production line operating data, and all of these considerations, because they will have an impact on the business, whether it's at the individual level or a more corporate level. From the assessment of your information assets, you will have the insight to produce a business impact analysis showing the respective risks and consequences, whether they be financial, human, logistical, or it has to do with your reputation. And what about business continuity and disaster recovery? Knowing how you are going to maintain business as usual in the event of data or technology problems is vital. Disruptions to your operations, reduced or absence of customer service, reduced profitability, and compromised reputation are all potential consequences of not having the appropriate strategy in place. So you have to be looking at issues such as the first stage of this matter, which is to identify your critical business functions, denial of access, loss of key staff, loss of key supplier, loss of key systems. What is this all going to mean? We have to think about it very actively going forward in this digital media landscape. The business impact analysis will identify the recovery time objective, how long and to what level a business process must be restored after a disruption in order to avoid unacceptable consequences. IT systems must be designed to be resilient and need to be available to match the needs of the business and the recovery time objective. And so it's so important to be proactive in all that we do. For small organizations not using, a data service to back up their data, they should be stored off-site and in a fireproof safe. Retention periods to backups are determined by the needs of the business, or in some cases by legislation. Checks need to be performed that backups have run correctly, and sample backups should be restored on a regular basis. I know it's a lot of information I'm throwing at you, but this is where we're going in the future. And cyber liability insurance will really and truly become a key part of keeping ourselves in line with maintaining our safety in operating in the online world. Back to you, Terry Carell.
I think you've got Andrea.
Okay.
There's terrible echo. Is it me?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's gone. I'd actually like to talk about skills and capacity building.
Yes.
And also how industry, especially startups, can prepare for this. Sorry, I'm being asked to close something. Can I hand over to Terry Carell if she's ready? Sorry, Terry.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you so very much, Stacey. I'm getting an echo as well. I believe we're picking up. Okay, thank you so very much, Stacey. Okay, so I'm Terry Carell. Let me just say that, as you rightfully said, that's a lot of information, and I really appreciate being able to do that. The question is, do you think that we will be able to maintain that level of cybersecurity to protect all users?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
You spoke about confidentiality, cybersecurity, and responsibility. Do you think we will ever reach a point where we can actually attain cybersecurity for all users across the board? Is that actually attainable, or can we get there as possible?
I think that it's going to be incremental. I think it has a lot to do with educating the population and training the professionals. So, a company will have to really and truly ingrain this into their culture in terms of training. So, for instance, if we take a journalist, for example, you're not now just going to be looking at a journalist who knows how to cover news, who knows how to read sources and elicit the responses for breaking stories, but journalists who actually understand how to keep themselves safe, how to create passwords that are strong, how to keep their data backed up, how to ensure that they're keeping their software on their machines that they're using up to date. Those are simple things, because 85% of the breaches that take place is due to human error, something that someone has done that they should not have done, or something that they did not do. So I think the more and more training that we have as professionals, and the more and more education that we use our platforms for as professionals, we will get there. I don't think it will be 100% foolproof. And that's the reason why we still have to prepare for and plan for adverse eventualities.
Thank you so very much. Andrea, I don't know if we can bring you back. I know that you had a specific question. So I believe, okay, there you go.
Thank you very much. Stacey, I was going to ask you, how can the industry, especially small startups, actually build things by design? There's a lot of talk about, you talked about building cybersecurity by design. There's a lot of discussion in the UK about children and protective measures for children by design, ethics for AI by design. How can small organizations actually build those sorts of facilities? And would you actually think there's a role for government there?
Well, in this regard, I think there's a need for a pooling of resources among small businesses. For example, in production, a small person might not be able to have their own production company to produce a particular product, but they can go to one production house and have things done. And I think similarly, this idea can be extrapolated to the design where small businesses are concerned. And you talked about government. Government usually cater to small businesses in terms of financing them through industry associations, for example. And I think that the discussion will definitely need to go there in terms of what they need and budgets that will need to cater for them as small people and being able to benefit from pooled resources. So it's definitely doable, but you have to think about the best methodology in getting it done.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll come back to that one as well. Thank you. I'm handing over now to Terry Carell to introduce our final speaker in this part of the session.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Andrea. And may I just say, Stacey, your hair, your crown of glory is just absolutely stunning. So we have our last, but certainly not least, a panelist. If someone had told me a year ago that I myself would have started a podcast, I would have said, stop your nonsense. But we heard the children in the session before speaking about podcasts that they listen to. So our very final panelist is speaking about the pivot to audio, podcasts, audiobooks, and the future of radio. Sarah Lomax Reese is president and CEO of Word Radio LLC, Pennsylvania's only African-American owned talk radio station. She's credited with transforming Word Radio into a multimedia brand that provides cutting-edge original programming on air, online, and through community events. Last fall, Ms. Lomax Reese spearheaded the launch of a new environmental justice journalism project called EcoWord as part of the Civil Digital Platform. She comes with a lot of experience as we speak about media and communication, and we can't wait to hear her contribution. Sarah Lomax Reese, welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to speak at this wonderful conference. My family has had a house in Jamaica since 1983, so I'm very connected to Jamaica. And again, I find this to be an incredible honor to be a participant in this conversation. As you mentioned, I am the owner and president and CEO of WURD Radio, which is one of only 3 African-American owned talk radio stations in the nation. And a lot of people, I know that this is very much about digital and trust and new media, but a lot of people have kind of written radio off, traditional terrestrial radio off. And part of my message today is that in this very diversified world that we're living in, we have to be multimedia, and that also means legacy media. We cannot completely divorce ourselves from what you might call old technology, because if we want to be viable in the future, we have to also cultivate our audiences and serve our audiences in the now. And so there's still a very large degree of people, and I'm speaking primarily about America because that's where I am, who are very invested and still listen to radio. It might be through an app, it might be through a website, but terrestrial radio, which is what WURD has started out as, is still very viable, particularly for an older demographic. And so we know that there's oftentimes a fixation on younger audiences, and we must cultivate younger audiences in order to be viable into the future. But we also need to super serve our core and existing audiences as well. And so the way that we have done that at WURD is really to be, as Vashan was talking about, very multi-platform and very multimedia. And so we are on the air on 900 AM and 96.1 FM, which is terrestrial, but we also have an app. We stream our radio programming online, and we also do what we call Word TV, which is we have cameras in our radio studios which broadcast video across Facebook Live and YouTube. And so it really extends the reach globally, because anyone can access our content through these video streams, as well as through the app and the other digital spaces. But I think that one of the things I'm speaking about today is kind of how do you create sustainable media business models into the future. My entire career, almost 30 years, has been in the independent Black media space. I've owned a magazine, my family owns WURD, and it's a very different kind of proposition to own and operate and build media, as opposed to diversifying kind of a larger newsroom. And so I believe, in terms of connecting some of the earlier discussions around trust and misinformation, disinformation, I really believe that ownership matters, because if you have trust in the ownership, if there is connectivity with the ownership and the community, then there's going to be a greater likelihood of trust in the actual content and in the media institution itself. And I believe that you know, these conversations are so important right now because media has gotten much more diversified and much more complex. But the core mission and the core need for effective and competent media coverage has never been more important. Anyone who followed American politics over the last 4 years knows that the media was really the backstop, was the thing that stood between like an authoritarian, dictatorial, presidential leadership and access to truth and the ability to mete out the difference between truth and lies. And so we in the media play that pivotal role. And so whether it's through social media, through traditional newsrooms, through podcasts, through video, all of these spaces are absolutely critical because people consume media so differently, generationally, et cetera. So it's, but to me, the most important thing is to have sustainable business models so that it is something that allows the information to be consistent, to be accurate, to be trusted, all of those things. And that requires an investment in time and energy and resources. And so even though I agree anyone in this moment can become a media maker, whether it's through a blog or through a social media presence, I believe, and this has been my life's work, there's something very empowering and powerful about creating institutions that can actually hire people, promote people, train people. And that's what I'm like really committed to at this point in my career, is to create institutions that are about serving our communities, Black and Brown communities, authentically, consistently, and create business models that allow them to grow, innovate, lead, and build the next generation of media makers. And the last thing I'll say is that my newest venture is called URL Media, which stands for Uplift, Respect, and Love. And it's a network of Black and Brown owned media organizations from across the country, eventually across the globe, that have come together to share content, share amplification, and to share revenues to help to build much more sustainable Black and Brown media organizations that can, like I said, not just be in the game, but lead the game and innovate and experiment and just be the strongest possible media organizations we can be. So I'll pause there. I hope that wasn't more than 6 minutes.
Listen, thank you so very much. You dropped so many gems, and certainly I think one of my biggest takeaways was you talking about, although there's a lot of talk about new media, it is important for us to still look at our niche and to look at our older generations who have been a part of our loyal communities, and to not divorce ourselves from them, but to still serve them. The question is, and maybe if you have recommendation, you spoke about the importance of attaining that sustainability. You spoke about the importance of serving that niche community that might be older, which is what radio really is, but to also understand that there are new opportunities with new media, such as podcasts and having apps and websites. When or where or how does a company strike the balance of how to serve these different persons, the younger generation, the older generation, cultivating the younger, keeping the older, but being sustainable without running yourself too thin across platforms?
Yeah, I mean, that's the holy grail. That's what I think everyone is struggling with. The way that we do it is we are actively trying to cultivate an intergenerational audience. So and that is not easy, but what that means is we are intentional about having younger personalities, younger people who are actively engaged in the organization, but we always want to respect our elders and the people who have come before, and really sit at the feet of the elders and hear their wisdom, their stories, because so much of what's happening now is an echo of what's happened in the past. And so we want to be a space, WURD wants to be a space where we can share that knowledge with respect, and that means respect from older generations to younger folks and younger folks to older folks. So we definitely are trying to serve up the information again across these different platforms, because we know that younger folks are accessing stuff through social media and more through video, through podcasts. So we have to be in all these spaces. We have to be in order to reach the broadest possible audience. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're creating conversations across generations, not just talking to one or the other, but with each other.
That is absolutely beautiful. Creating an enabling environment that promotes intergenerational dialogue. I absolutely love it. So Andrea, who is my co-moderator, I'm going to welcome you back, and we're going to encourage all of you, our viewers, our attendees who are watching across the different platforms, to submit your questions in the chat box so that we can get as many addressed as possible. We have all of our panelists available to take on these questions. Andrea, what did you think?
I thought it was just amazing. We some of you may have missed the earlier presentation by Dr. Nelson, who talked about adaptability and agility. And it seems to me that both the end user and the industry has to be adaptable and agile. And I was interested that Darissa, I think it was, said that people were very adept at fact checking. I don't know if she's coming back, at fact checking. And obviously Sarah and other people are very much looking at how you can present information. We talked about citizen journalism. We've talked about building governance by design. But how do you actually create a system where people are educated to do these things? Not, yes, you're building it by design. How do you actually make sure they understand what their responsibilities are? Anyone?
Who wants to take that one?
Wave a hand.
I mean, I'll start it off. I think that, again, I'm operating from the US, right outside of Philadelphia. So much is a challenge in terms of our educational system. We are being kind of spoon-fed information that, and our public education system in the US does not really promote critical thinking. It's very much, rote. And I think that what is absolutely critical when we're talking about being able to discern from fake news or disinformation or accurate information, it really requires people to be critical thinkers, to not just take what is given, but to be able to really pull it apart and to question the veracity, question the source. Who is saying this? That matters. What is the context for this information? That matters. Who, what is the agenda? Who is funding? Like, follow the money. That's like the foundational basis of journalism. Follow the money. Who's paying for this information? Who are the advertisers that might be influencing this information? So I think that in order for us to have a more critically, consumer audience in terms of media, we've got to be smarter. We've got to, and the last thing I'll say is, I think we have to consume information that we don't necessarily agree with. A lot of times right now, the media is so siloed, you can just, binge on stuff that's reinforcing your own worldview. We've got to step out of our like echo chambers and hear what other people are saying and thinking, and then let that too be a part of that that kind of critical analysis of what's out there.
Agreed. Sonia Gill says, Vashant's advocacy against state regulation of media is understandable, but will profit motives override corporate social responsibility and lead to chaos if there's no national regulatory framework? So Vashant, earlier we spoke about, that state regulation. We don't necessarily want to trample on people's freedom of expression, but is it necessary?
So I think, so I'm agreed that there is a need for some sort of regulation, right? And I think Sonia did point that out in her question. Mm-hmm. I'm not against some sort of framework, but I'm also against any sort of so the concern for me is who will do the kind of enforcement, what kind of body, what will that look like? And the implications for media workers and the journalists and the work that they do must always be considered. And that's an important consideration in how that kind of regulatory framework will look.
Okay. And Sonia, I hope you certainly got your answers. I know, and he does say it's necessary, but again, it does come down to what does that look like and what will the implications be? Thank you so very much, Vashan. Andrea.
Good tell. I think both Vashan and Sarah have referred to what I call politics and independence. And I think one of the things we've not talked about, you might be talking about a state regulation, but is state regulation the same as independent regulator? And I think they are very different things. And Vashan, you did mention politics in your presentation as well. And I think the importance of independent regulators, particularly in the information world, is very important. And it will be interesting to see at the end of this, where the BCJ and other regulators like that come out and how do they hold on to their independence, particularly when you have so many different pressures around you from social media, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, etc., etc. So if anyone has any views on how to maintain, assuming you all agree with me, independence of the regulator, it would be interesting to hear. Stacey, perhaps you have a view with your building in barriers, measures.
I think that it's very difficult to exclude politics from any arena of life. But how we try to get some kind of balance is to have various stakeholders with various voices involved in decision making. So even with appointing a so-called independent regulator, these people should be appointed by with consultation amongst various stakeholders. They're going to be people with varying political persuasions, various views in terms of how they do business in the private sector. And they're going to be people who might just go straight down the line of being legal. So it's about getting the various points of views of various stakeholders involved in the decision-making process to even begin to appoint people who will be responsible for the regulation, and then holding them to a certain measure of conduct is going to be really important. But I must say that in my belief, you can never really divorce politics from any arena of life.
Okay.
No, absolutely. I want to bring in Darissa for this. While I was listening to her speak earlier, she spoke about, awareness and responsibility. I'm not sure if you saw the session with Susan Symes as she was speaking to the various children at different age groups. And they were speaking about privacy policy, and they were very aware of how to keep safe and things that they shouldn't do. As we are trying to prevent or mitigate our citizens from sharing information that is not necessarily real, or fact-checking, or trying to confirm, what are some other ways that we can help to educate and increase the awareness amongst our citizens? The youngsters seem to be doing a good job, but it seems to dissipate as we get older. Do you have any ideas where that is concerned?
Yes, this is a very interesting point. Currently, actually, in the midst of kind of investigating how this would work for the Caribbean in general. So we see, as you would have mentioned, like younger persons, they're typically a bit more technically savvy, not to say like the older persons are not trying to get involved in technology. But I think for the most part, educational campaigns could really go a long way. One, letting persons know just from the local level, like what should be done when they go online looking for content, what it means to be get information from a reputable source, and also like how that could impact them, because there have been instances where persons are going online, they're looking for information, and they end up clicking on something that could be like a scam, something that could harm them. So then you see the effects of that could ripple. So then it is very much important for persons to be aware. So not necessarily just from the interface level, but also in general, just having general information about like what to look out for.
Well, fantastic. Andrew, I think we have time for one last question. I mean, this is the kind of conversation and the caliber of panelists that we have that we could literally go on and on, but I hand it over to you.
Okay, well, we have a question from Cordell Green from the BCJ saying that Jamaica ranks high, who's actually asking Vashan, but we'll throw it open. Jamaica ranks high in press freedom, but we regulate. Is the future content regulator plus user self-regulation plus platform regulation plus algorithms? Is it a co-regulatory approach? And actually, does that work? Throwing it open.
So first of all, I want to talk about the first point. Of course, this issue of regulation in discussion in relation to journalistic practice is not new, right? So over the years, we've been having conversation about whether, for instance, we need a press complaints council or a media complaints council, that specific body set up to regulate the work of journalists, right? So there's been some disagreement about that over the years. The Broadcasting Commission does the kind of regulation of media content generally. So the second part of what he raises about the future content regulator, whether it is self-regulator or platform regulator or algorithms or co-regulatory approach, I would say that that is the key problematic, just exactly how you do that kind of regulation. And that's definitely something that we need to, as a society, have more conversations about, because we really haven't. And so we have to first agree that there is some kind of regulation, and then we can go into the debate and discussion about whether it is going to be a user self-regulation or whether we're going to tackle platform regulation or whether it is going to be a co-regulatory approach. And that, Mr. Green, I believe, is a key problematic that we all need to solve.
No, absolutely. Well, I know we probably went over our time. Miss Andrea Millwood Hargrave, my co-moderator, principal of Millwood Hargrave Limited. Thank you so very much for co-moderating with me. Miss Stacey Russell, thank you very much. Miss Sarah Lomax Reese, Miss Daricia Wilkinson, and Mr. Vashon Brown. Thank you for sharing your talents and your expertise, on a session that is just so much. It's so much to unpack, but certainly what you've been able to do is give us some insights and some more things to think about as we do a deep dive, speaking about media and communication and the future of this industry going forward. I found it was absolutely fantastic. I hope that you are sharing the information using the hashtag BCJ35th. Now, we did put up a poll, and the poll is: in the future, social media will be regulated similarly to traditional media. In the future, social media will be regulated similarly to traditional media. Well, do you disagree, somewhat agree, have no opinion, somewhat agree, or do you absolutely flat out agree? We would love to hear from you. So it takes just a second to look at the poll for those of you sitting down in the Hopin platform, and I will definitely give you the results later on. Congratulations to our winners. We had some winners earlier on. I had my list here. George Scott on YouTube, Nadine Blair from Hopin, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The second question is, what does the BCJ as well as IIC acronyms stand for? That's an easy one. You'll be able to win a copy of the advanced ebook that was written by Dr. Claire Nelson. Again, BCJ and IIC, what do those acronyms mean? Let us know. We move straight into session 4, the future of realism in AI and personal interaction. We've been hearing a lot about computing and coding and open architecture, and it's just so much. And we hear about artificial intelligence, but what does that have to do with media and communication? We are about to find out. But before that, I actually got the response, the results of our poll. In the future, social media will be regulated similarly to traditional media. 42.5% of you agree. 20% of you somewhat agree. 0% have no opinion, and 75% somewhat disagree, and 30% disagree completely. Thank you so very much for participating in that poll. So going back The future of realism is in AI. I'm extremely excited to see this presentation by Mr. Eldon Marks, founder and CEO of V75 Inc. in Guyana, and Dr. Jason Mars, co-founder and assistant professor of computer science, University of Michigan Clinic Incorporated in the USA. Cannot wait to see this presentation. Welcome them to the virtual stage.
All right, thank you, Terry, and happy 35th to the BCJ. And thank you once again, Cardell and the BCJ team, for inviting us here to share in what we consider to be an exciting new way in which we leverage AI as a tool and show what else is possible. However, what we are deeply excited about is demonstrating what we are capable of in the region when it comes to innovation. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, so thanks so much for the opportunity to share with you guys. I think understanding how we engage with the world and how each of us human beings create new channels for communicating with our audiences is incredibly important. And that's driven the mission of what we're going to talk about today. One thing I'm very proud of is the collaboration I've had with Eldon for many years in Guyana. So I was born in Jamaica, I grew up in Guyana, and we've been working on really focused on sparking some economic success in the tech sector in the region. So this is one example of the work we're doing, and we think it'll revolutionize the way we connect and engage, similar to social media in general. Yeah, go ahead, Eldon.
Awesome. So with that said, I'd like to introduce you to True Self, a product that may very well transform automated online engagement as we know it. Now, if you've ever had the unfortunate experience of interacting with a chatbot, you'll agree that the technology has a long way to go in becoming more widely used by consumers. But why aren't consumers using it? So did you know that 86% of consumers prefer to engage a human agent over an AI-based system like a chatbot? And the fact is that AI-based systems like chatbots are just not relatable to consumers. So studies show that human qualities like natural sounding voices and personalities are some of the key elements that encourage visitor engagement by first establishing a connection with people. And this is what we aim to solve with our product. With True Self, we can place an interactive version of yourself online to connect with visitors in an infinitely scalable way. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, and you know, the key nugget here is when it comes to the way we communicate with each other, this format we're using right now is way more effective than a flat website. If you went to a website and it had all the content that we're talking about today, it's less interesting and you feel less connected to the people, and the people matter. And this is something that's really missed. Even with a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram, when you're reading tweets, you lose a massive component of what human engagement is all about. And that is feeling connected to the individuals you're talking to. So let's say that in the Q&A section, you could talk to an AI, not so interesting. But if that AI looked like me and was me indeed, and you can interact with me on anything you wanted to talk about, and we've captured all of the answers. All of the stuff I'm saying is captured in the AI, and you can talk to a video of me. That creates a new opportunity for engagement. Imagine going to, the president's website, and you can talk to the president himself or herself in the future, and the president will talk back. Tell me about that policy you have on whether we should regulate social media. I want to know specifically, what do you plan to do about Facebook in the region? And then the president, via video, answers your specific question. That's what we aim to realize with True Self.
Awesome. And we've made it so that anyone can easily create and manage their online self. No technical knowledge required, and that's quite an achievement. So our approach actually puts the human into automated intelligent interactions, opening up a whole new realm of possibilities for online engagement as we know it. So to be specific, True Self could, just get a slide here. True Self could deliver next level customer engagement to drive sales and brand marketing. It can power online customer service to increase customer satisfaction while cutting costs. And it can offer a one-of-a-kind interactive experience to fans, supporters, or visitors if you are a celebrity, politician, or professional. And this is only the beginning of what this technology can offer. So TrueSelf has the power to tap into whole new markets, but our initial focus is on the global chatbot market. Jason?
Right, and this gives you a capability to take yourself and make yourself available all the time, 24/7, right? So people are very interested to learn more from a journalist, and they may want to ask questions about a particular event that's happening in the region. Well, the amount of labor it would take for that person to answer all the people on the planet, it's impossible, right? But via a medium like a video AI of the person answering a whole host of questions, that person is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to engage with an audience. And that's the nugget, and it has implications in many different use cases.
Awesome. And what we're doing initially is just targeting that AI chatbot market initially, which is set to grow from 3 billion to 10.5 billion US by 2026 as more investments are made in customer service activities that reduce costs and increase engagement. So what I'd like to show you right now is a video. It's just a quick demo video of me talking to myself, SELPH, that is.
Something really cool. That is an AI-powered version of me, and it's running on a prototype that we're working on called TrueSelf. Now, this is going to sound strange, but I'm about to talk to myself, and it's going to tell you a bit more about what TrueSelf is. I'm going to click on the microphone every single time I need to say something to it, so you're going to hear me clicking. So tell me about TrueSelf.
So TrueSelf is an idea that's been floating around my head for years, but only recently Jason and I got together to make this possible.
How does it work?
It works by allowing you to create these imprints, which are responses to certain things that you can talk about.
What can I do with TrueSelf?
With TrueSelf, you can create an AI-powered version of yourself, much like what you're interacting with right now.
So there are a few responses that are programmed into this right now. It's very limited at the moment, but you can add more responses as time goes by so we can, deepen the conversation a bit. If I tell it something that it just is not prepared to understand, it'll give me a confused look. So take a look at this. Make me a sandwich. Yeah, he doesn't know what I'm talking about because of the program. Now, everything is managed through a dashboard, and the TrueSelf dashboard looks something like this, where every single one of these items here is an imprint, as we're calling it. It's a response that you can program into the system. And you get to test yourself out in the dashboard itself while you're building yourself. So every single imprint that's in there is a new possible way in which your AI-powered self can respond to people.
I think you're on mute, Eldon. Hello? I think, can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm gonna talk about this piece. So what makes this possible, and what's one of the most important things to realize, is the hardest part of creating any of these conversational AIs is training it to be smart to understand what people are saying. So, if someone, once you give it responses, once you give it information and knowledge, it's incredibly laborious to train it. So one of the key innovations that we've done with TrueSelf is we've made that zero work. All you have to do is record yourself, and then automatically you get a conversational AI that understands arbitrary things people say. So they can ask things in different ways, speak in messy human language, and it understands. So you simply, literally, it takes 5 minutes to create a self with 5 minutes worth of answers to questions. And you click a button and then you have your AI. So it's trivial for everyone and anyone to create an AI-powered version of themselves. And it's based on 3 technologies. I'm not gonna get too nerdy, but I'll just leave it to say that, so there's embeddings, there's transfer learning, and there's something called zero-shot learning. What I'll say is recently, just last year, Microsoft licensed from OpenAI a model for $1 billion. They created a partnership with OpenAI for which cost $1 billion, and it was motivated by the creation of this model. It's called GPT-3. This is one of the first times that we've had this zero-shot learning. That means that the AI can do new things without you having to train it. And so that's what, that philosophy to AI is what we use for our models. And so we've engineered some novel approaches so that all you have to do is record yourself, and then you have a super smart AI that knows how to answer people's questions. Next slide. And this is actually specifically like what it looks like. We have one master model that was trained on the world. More specifically, lots of data, lots of written human language data, and it understands the deep plausibility of what's a good answer to a question. Actually, your brains do this too. If I ask you a question that's outside of what you know, but you got to read 3 answers, you can pick out of the 3 answers the best answer to that question, even if you don't know about the domain. So that's what we train our master model to understand. And so it can produce a self for you with video automatically. So it's a very, very special thing. We actually have a patent on this capability. So it's protected. And it's really the crux of the company. This is going to become available to everyone this year. So it'll just be a website. You can create selves and post it on your website, very soon. So we're incredibly proud and excited to bring this to the world. Eldon had the mind spark behind it. Our collaboration allowed us to create the technology to fuel it. I'm just very delighted and excited to what this could mean for the way we engage each other, right? We can be available to each other, to talk to each other in a question and answer way at any time. It's a new channel. We believe this is a new channel for digital engagement beyond social media, beyond having a flat website that's kind of boring these days. And so, that's True Self.
All right. So to find out more about True Self, you can visit our website at trueself.com, or you can send us a message at info@trueself.com. But we'll be around for the breakout session, a 30-minute breakout session later on. If you have any questions, or if you'd like a demo of True Self, we can help you build yourself using the tool.
Yeah,
that'll be awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so very much, Eldon Marks and Dr. Jason Mars. I love nerds. And I say that very respectfully. Like, nerds make the world so much easier, more efficient. Just a fantastic job. Congratulations on the soft launch. I think what's really interesting is that our keynote speaker this morning, who was Dr. Claire Nelson, had spoken about us being creators as opposed to being consumers, and believing that we have the engineers, we have the capacity, we have the capabilities to create amazing things in our own region. But if the question is, are we creating those spaces and enabling it? And what you guys have been able to do right here, demonstrating that, one, we have the capability, we have the talent. When we collaborate, we're even stronger, and you can produce something that can solve a problem for people in the world. So this is really thinking big, thinking out of the box, and it was beautiful to see. So we will catch up with you at the end, post-event, where you actually show us how True Self works. And certainly for a lot of us who have a lot of people to see, persons coming to our website, we can't always physically be in the space to deal with our customers. So to have that personalized product there speaking on your behalf definitely gives them a sense of trust and building community, which is something that Sarah Lomax-Reese spoke about. So that was a fantastic presentation. We have a poll. We have a poll for you. In the next 35 years, all private data will be a recognized public good. Very interesting. In the next 35 years, all private data will be a recognized public good. Do you disagree, somewhat disagree, you have no opinion, somewhat agree, or agree? That was fantastic. I have a question for your giveaway, and it is something that was said by those gentlemen in the True Self presentation. They said, blank % of consumers prefer to engage a human agent over an AI-based agent. Blank % of consumers prefer to engage a human rather than a chatbot. If you can tell me the percentage, and of course, 2 lucky winners will win for themselves an advanced copy of the ebook of Dr. Nelson, one from Hopping and the other from social media. So the question, blank % of consumers prefer to engage a human agent over an AI-based agent. Now, I would like to just acknowledge a comment that was made by Patrick Lafayette. Sincerely, we do apologize. He is a blind participant, and it gives us a lot to think about. He says, the platform is not fully accessible to me as a blind person. He says, I cannot access the space to ask a question or give a comment. It will not allow me to really do so. So he's very concerned about the place of the disabled community within the future space. What provisions will there be for us to have avenues of dissemination? Will we have proper access for input of our ideas and information? And Patrick, we're going to be working on the accessibility. Certainly, we have the deaf community covered, but certainly it gives us more room and more depth to think about other members of the disabled communities. And we do apologize for the limitations and how your experience might have been impacted today, but you've certainly given us a lot to think about in terms of inclusion and having the blind society or blind citizens being able to not only access information but also to offer their perspective. So we note your comment, and we will certainly work on it for the very next forum. Thank you so very much for that. So I'm looking for my results. I'm waiting for the results of my poll. Nadine Blair says, wonder where this would be available, even on phones. Can you imagine your own AI deciding to do something that you don't want to do? Oh, well, movies coming to life. Interesting, though. She's speaking about True Self. So I'm going to be waiting on my winners, and I will also wait on my results. So we now move into a very interesting part of this, because we speak about media and communication, we speak about journalism and broadcasting, but certainly it involves so much more. Okay, I have some results here. So 27.6% of you agree. And just to remind you what the poll was, in the next 35 years, all private data will be recognized as public good. 27.6% of you agree. 34.5% of you somewhat agree. 6.9% says, you know what, I don't know, I have no opinion. 10.3% somewhat disagree, and 20.7% of you disagree. Thank you for always participating in our polls. So we're now moving into an evolving creative vision of the future. Media is not just about news, not just about journalism, not just about social media, but it also extends itself. It has tentacles into art and art forms and how they present themselves. So in this presentation, an evolving creative vision of the future, we invited Miss Kian Patrice Hutchinson, an amazing photographer, digital artist, wall art creator, and muralist, to definitely give us an idea of visualizing and creating expression of themes and ideas about the future within an artistic context. Of course, this is a pre-recording, but she's right here with us in the virtual space, and she'll be addressing any questions or any comments that you may have. Do enjoy. All right, we're waiting for the audio there. I know Kian personally, and I know that she would have created something absolutely beautiful. And she, as well as the gentleman, Eldon Marks and Dr. Jason Mars, they will also have individual sessions taking place post-event. So we want to just remind you that that will be taking place afterwards. So I'm going to throw it over again to the presentation, An Evolving Creative Vision of the Future.
It is such a pleasure to be here at the BCJ's 35th Anniversary Forum. My name is Kian Patrice Hutchinson, and I am a digital artist, muralist, and wall art creator. It's 1970 in New York, and a slim Frenchman walks with his friends. As evening approaches, they reach the plumbing specialist J.L. Mott Ironworks. They step inside, and the gentleman goes directly to what he wants to purchase: a white porcelain urinal upon which he writes in black paint, R. Mott 1917, and bestows the name Fountain. His plan: to prank the uptight art world. The man, Marcel Duchamp, an artist who paved the way for an entire art movement, Dadaism. The point: that art could be anything as long as an artist says it is art. I'll use this concept as the foundation for the 3 points we'll be talking about today. 1, a quick trip through art history. 2, where we are now. And the area of focus, 3, possibilities for the future as influenced by technological advances. Art has a long history, spanning prehistoric art, 35,000 to 2000 BC, Renaissance art, as in Leonardo da Vinci's hyper-realistic paintings in the 1400s. Impressionism, like Claude Monet's short, quick dabs of paint in vivid colors in the 19th century, to the postmodern and new media art of the 21st century, the now. Technology causes us to reimagine and redefine art in new and sometimes unexpected ways. As has always been the case, particularly with new mediums and styles, audiences and critics are divided. Is the effect of technology on art positive or negative? This applies as much to art as to anything we consume across the content continuum, like music or journalism. Art, science, and technology have always had an interconnected relationship. In 1841, an American painter by the name of John Gough Rand invented the collapsible tube in which to put oil paints. And by Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh's day, chemists had created new pigments, often with synthetic materials. That is what helped 19th century paintings to be so different from times prior. Brilliant colors and portable tubes. Technology. This led to a whole art movement, Impressionism. The critics cried heresy, using descriptives such as grotesque and unfinished. This is not art. This unease and at times outright rejection is not unlike the situation that meets each major leap forward in technology, which leads to a change in either the process or aesthetic of art. But tech and art's use of it reflect the time, and as tools and materials evolve, so does artistic expression. Take the case of the late Anthony Bourdain's documentary film, in which artificial intelligence was used to narrate emails written by him in his own voice.
Well, tonight, a new debate is raging over the use of artificial intelligence in a film on the life of celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain, who died by suicide in 2018. CBS's Jim Axelrod takes a look.
The goal of the new documentary about Anthony Bourdain was straightforward.
Here's a little preemptive truth-telling.
As the director, Morgan Neville, told me.
I want people to be able to make some sense out of his death.
But it turns out how it was made was not.
You were successful, and I'm successful, and I'm wondering, are you happy?
That soundbite was something Bourdain wrote, but never actually said. Listen again.
You are successful, and I am successful.
The voice was generated by a computer, a use of artificial intelligence Neville called a modern storytelling technique, but did not disclose to the viewer.
To put a voice to something that someone never said, only wrote, is a really bad idea. I think to do that and then not disclose that you've done it is a colossally bad idea.
This is sparking a lot of controversy. But the question I'd like to ask is, in another 35 years, will there even be a debate around this? Or will AI used in this way, hopefully appropriately labeled, be normalized as a part of the content we consume every day? Anyway, let's return to art. Where are we now? Examples of technology in art are part of our daily lives, as evidenced by the filters we see on practically every social media platform. Interesting uses are more accessible than some would think. Take as an example, the photo editing software Adobe Photoshop. They released their neural filters, which use AI to make several processes easier. One such filter is called Colorize, where in just a few seconds, a black and white image can be converted to realistic color.
All right, so watch how well the new Colorize works. We're going to go and choose the Colorize under beta. And give this a few seconds and boom, look at that. That is amazing. My mind is blown.
Google's Arts and Culture app is another interesting and accessible use of AI. It has a feature called Art Selfie. What that does is it matches your selfie with a lookalike from a museum's collection. Cool. Current trends at the intersection of art and tech include extended reality, nature, and interactive art. Extended reality covers things like augmented and virtual realities. Nature focuses on climate change as well as renewable materials. And interactive art is essentially art that requires participation from spectators. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, are everywhere. The art auction house Christie's sold an NFT art for $69 million US. And of course, AI is at the core of many of the things today as well as tomorrow. Where we are lays the foundation for where we are headed. This is the part where imagination is every bit as integral as the technology that we're utilizing. Generative artificial intelligence, GAI, is AI that creates. It uses existing content like audio files or images to create plausible new content. Generative adversarial networks build on this and are essentially two AI systems pitted against each other in a creator-critic relationship, which act at hyper speeds to improve the accuracy of results. Right now, via GAI, words can be given to the system and a realistic, albeit imaginary, image created, like the bird using Microsoft's technology that you're seeing on the slide. In the future, it's not far-fetched to consider entire scripts being converted to animations or full-length films. Think Downtown Kingston in the 19th century, accurate from the actors' clothes to the very types of brick used in the building construction. What this would mean for the film industry is another conversation, one around adaptation, no doubt. I must briefly mention Stephanie Dinkins. This African-American transmedia artist is working on some interesting projects, one of which is an experiment in making a multi-generational memoir of a Black American family told from the perspective of a custom, deep learning artificial intelligence. I instantly thought about the future. building on this in the realm of storytelling, particularly focused on underrepresented groups. As climate change continues to be at the top of global agendas, an exciting area out of MIT and pioneered by Neri Oxman is the field of material ecology. This groundbreaking field is the study and design of products and processes integrating environmentally aware computational form generation and digital fabrication. This is truly at the intersection of computer science, biology, material science, and engineering, and is every bit art as material breakthrough. If you have doubts, pieces from the series have been on exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. This underscores a broader concept, the merging of disciplines. And this is where the catalyst of growth lies. Imagine putting 3D printers on huge robotic arms and combining the technology with natural forms of building, like silkworm silk. That could revolutionize how we build. In the future, we will not build our products and our architecture. Rather, we will grow them, Oxman predicts. Form and function intersect beautifully in these projects. Just think about a TV production set. Will they continue to be constructed, or will we grow them using AI and later generation printing? It is night and you get home after a long day of work. As you enter your living room, the artwork on your walls change to soothing tones and patterns, and the bright ceiling lights dim to a relaxing level. The light and art sense your mental state from your brain-computer interface chip. A brain-computer interface, BCI for short, is essentially a collaboration between a device and a brain that enables signals from the brain to direct an external activity. It can be implantable or wearable, with examples already in existence. BCIs are, in their rudimentary form, being employed in accessibility applications for the physically disabled. Things like using robotic arms for simple tasks and making keyboard inputs from sheer brain power. 35 years from now, BCIs could unlock an entire segment of our population's creative expression. A quadriplegic could have paintings exhibited in contemporary art museums, and an individual with locked-in syndrome could freely share their thoughts or even create audiovisual content for any platform. This conversation, which has taken us on a journey through art history, current trends and technologies in art, and possibilities for the future, is meant to exercise the imagination. In this sessions area, I'd love to hear what your ideas of the future are, particularly at the intersection of technology, art, and media. Also, we'll get to have a conversation about my art, some of the technologies I employ, and you will get to experience some of my images come to life through augmented reality. See you over there. As Richard Koshalik in an article in Smithsonian Magazine said, the future is unknowable, but it is not unthinkable.
Oh my goodness. The future, wow. I don't even know. Could you please, in maybe a word, tell us what that particular session by Miss Kian Patrice Hutchinson was like for you? I found it to be so rich and vibrant and informative, and it was history and it was art. And she did such a fantastic job. Camille Sinclair says, I love everything about this presentation. Marcia Forbes says, extremely interesting presentation by Kian Hutchinson. Read trends at the intersection of art and reality. What a feast today's webinar has served up so far. Yummy. Cordell Green, Executive Director, says, Kian is helping us to begin to think about how we can innovate inclusion. Thank you so very much. She spoke about art, science, technology, media, and how they always have this relationship, right? There's a marrying of all of them, and the use of augmented reality as well as virtual reality with art can open up so much more. She asked a lot of questions. She posed questions even to us about the ethical part of using artificial intelligence, and will we be debating those things in the next 35 years? And certainly she also asked the question, about growing things rather than simply building them. Absolutely fantastic presentation. And you would have heard that she made mention that she will have her post-event session as well that you are invited to be a part of. So we have the gentlemen, Eldon Marks and Dr. Jason Mars, who will be giving you a demonstration of True Self, and their session will be running concurrently with Kian Hutchinson. Her art is amazing, and she has been featured in Vogue and other German magazines. And so it will be very interesting to see the participation in those sessions post-event. Now we have a poll, and it says, in the future, human creativity will be blank. A, diminished, or B, expanded by artificial intelligence and related technologies. Let me repeat. In the future, human creativity will be A, diminished, or B, expanded by artificial intelligence and related technologies. Fantastic presentation. I'll have to link Kian so that she can help me to do my slides when I have presentations. I have another giveaway question, and it is that Eldon Marks and Dr. Jason Mark did a soft launch. They launched an AI product called Blank. What is it? That's a pretty easy one. We'll be looking for winners across our social media platforms, as well as those sitting right here on our virtual platform, which is Hopping. I hope you've been enjoying the Digital Communication Forum presented to you by the BCJ in collaboration, in partnership with the International Institute of Communication, celebrating 35 years. I've been having a fantastic time moderating. So now we move to In Concert. And for those of you saying, what? We did say that these sessions would be enlightening, they'd be engaging, but they would also be entertaining. Now, it is mango season, or at least mango season is coming to an end. And if you ask Jamaicans, they would tell you that they prefer the Julie mango. And this particular Julie mango is a different kind of mango, but we love her as well. We welcome Miss Juliet Bodley, Julie Mango, actress, comedian, TikTok sensation, who will be doing a presentation that I would like to call some part of edutainment. Do enjoy.
Wagwan family, wanna look nice, man? Oh gosh, me say a piece of excitement have bust me shut today. Me have to tell you about artificial intelligence. Here are the levels. Imagine if I'm too tired to go to the gym, I just send my avatar instead. That way, I still get my exercise in. 35 years from now, what social media will be like, what the media will be like, what internet will be like. Imagine you can have virtual reality, pow pow, ha! Driverless cars. You can have robots that can do almost everything that the human can do. Imagine sitting in your house and you can't bother to go out for your pizza and you just send your car for the pizza. That would be nice, huh? Talk truth. Talk the truth. So we're going to look at a few different scenarios right now, right? And you tell me what you think. Let me show you what I mean. So I am really sorry to deliver this news, but your father will have early onset dementia. Lord have mercy, doctor. Tell me I'm not true that. I can't true that, doctor. That don't sound good at all, doc. That don't sound good at all. Papa, don't worry yourself. We're going to take care of everything. You hear? So, doc, what are our options? Well, we have a new procedure called remembrolysis. Remembrolysis? Oh, what that? That don't sound safe at all, doc. That don't sound safe at all. The process is very safe. It is actually the process by which we upload memories to the uCloud. The same way that you have the iCloud, that you upload memories and data from your computer, the uCloud is a place where you upload memories and data from the human brain. Basically from his head to an electronic storage area. Insurance will pay for that procedure? Yes, the procedure is covered by most insurance companies. And when the memories are uploaded to the uCloud, you will have those memories forever. So when his dementia gets worse, you will be able to share his memories with him. You can play it on a hologram or you can play it on the old-fashioned tablet. And that way you and your father can enjoy his memories. Then what about the memories that him wants to keep private? Because me would like to see all him memories when him have when him young and them something that's the kind of gross. So the remembrolysis machine has an emotional electronic sensor that detects the memories that your father would like to keep private. So his private memories will not be uploaded to the uCloud. However, his other memories that he wants to share will be uploaded. All right, Papa, that sounds good. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, yeah? All right, that sounds all right. That sounds all right. Okay, that's great. I do believe you have made the right decision. So I am going to get the remembrolysis machine. We can do it right where you are. You don't have to move. The machine is portable and 100% safe. Shall come with it now, Papa, if you upload something from out of your head. So this is the remembrolysis machine, and it is very painless. Don't worry about anything. So what I need for you to do is just sit upright and place your head very upright and look straight ahead. All right. All right. Are you ready? Sit tight. Let's go. And we're done. Well, that was quick, though. His memories have been uploaded to the uCloud. It was a pleasure. You have a great day. Suppose and say no, you're there on road and you see one car drive and nobody in the driving seat. You know, see no driver. You know, talk the truth that God love. You know, would I frighten? No, so that would I scare you more than rolling calf. Let me show you what I mean. Breaking news, an unidentified woman was seen running frantically from what appears to be a driveless vehicle. Bystanders tried to comfort the woman by telling her that it is in fact a driveless car. She, however, remained adamant that the vehicle was being operated by a ghost. She fled the scene and escaped in nearby bushes. We have more in this report. How was that? Oh, that the carrier drive without nobody in it. It looked like a dopey, like gosh. To shed some light on this, we have in studio Dr. Woyoy, who is responsible for the development of driverless vehicles in Jamaica. Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, Dr. Woyoy, do tell us, what is a driverless vehicle and what can Jamaicans expect to come of this technological advancement? Yes, well, a driverless vehicle, is probably a misnomer in itself, because the vehicle is actually just not being driven by a human sitting inside the vehicle. But I wouldn't say the vehicle is driveless, even though that's what we call it. But the vehicle is actually being driven just remotely and not by a human sitting inside the vehicle. So how that works now is that we control the vehicles by an electro-invisible sensor. This is it. It is invisible, and that's why you're not seeing it, but you can feel it. Oh, right. So what you do, you activate this electro-invisible sensor with your brain. You activate it and you tell the car where you want it to go. The vehicle will now download all of the instructions to get itself there. Dr. Woyoy, thank you so much for joining us in studio and shedding some light on the driverless vehicles. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Augmented reality. I want bad piece of something that, you know what that really be? It's like if you go somewhere and you don't like how the place look, you can just change it. Me like say decorate and buy this and buy that and spend whole heap of money and plant tree and all them something there. No, me mean them have a thing named augmented reality glasses. You just put them on and it change up everything for you the way you want it to change up. Check this out. Girl, I'm so excited for my date tonight. Oh, make sure you have your Vex money should in case anything. And your pepper spray. You have to have your pepper spray. You get Vex money. And make sure so your phone battery charged so that you don't run out of charge in case you need to call me. Right? Because you don't know this man from Adams. You don't know who him be. You don't know how him look. You go. Oh my gosh, you're so terrible. Pass me lipstick there for me. I hope she doesn't stand me up. Blind dates can be a little bit daunting, but I'm confident in myself. I'm well put together. And she should be a beauty. And however this goes, I will be confident and remain confident in my capable. Oh, hi. Hello. Okay. Hi.
Lux, then I saw she look. No, so she not look nice at all. Oof. Lord have mercy. Then I saw he look. No, so he not cute. How he here look so?
Boy, this blind date, you can really expect the unexpected, eh? I know, right?
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's nice to meet you finally, isn't it? It's nice to meet you too. And look, I may eat nothing else and I hope your pocket deep.
Okay, I am going to have to augment this reality. No.
The pic that you have on your Facebook, that's a younger picture. Excuse me? What are you trying to say? Oh, never mind. I'm just playing around, So what it is that I am sensitive to all this light. And here is quite bright, isn't it? It beats the moon and the sun also. All the natural light sources in here beats. So what I'm going to have to do is my blue light blocking glasses, I'm going to have to wear them if you don't mind, my good lady.
She look much better. Glasses work good, man. What a beauty.
Okay then, but why those darkers look like augmented reality glasses? None of you that I fully tell me up on the first date? No. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Here are your menus. I'm hoping that you're having a great evening. And I will be back to take your order in just a second. And I hope everything is fine and dandy, okay? Thank you so much, good sir. Thank you.
That the little bit of money that you have. No, so I forgot to use my augmented reality glasses so that I can see more money.
Me also sensitive to light, you see. So me I go put on me blue light blocking glasses.
Lord have mercy, what a way he look cute. He looks so much better with the glasses. If he ever know. Watch him now. He look nice. Kuya. Oh gosh, no man, them glasses are bad. Watch the difference.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it would quite seem as though those are augmented reality glasses, just like yours. Well, isn't it a thing that we're both wearing augmented reality glasses? Perhaps we should just have some fun. All right, then might as well. Let's have some fun. Wait up. You're not excited for the future. If you're not excited for the future, you wake up on the wrong side of your bed this morning. Me excited for the future of Jamaica and the Caribbean. And me can't wait to see what them people here are going to do in terms of artificial intelligence. Remember, so you hear it in this forum, say Jamaica and the Caribbean are go up and beyond. Yeah, what third world I go? Never. I mean, no, say the technology I go boom and me there your feet. Oh, you mean? Yeah.
Where third world I go talk truth where God love. Thank you so very much, Juliet Bodley, Julie Mango, who basically became viral during this pandemic, and how she just always manages to make storytelling and Jamaicanizing, I think, storytelling, from Dr. Ray a while ago to Dr. Woyoy. And you know that we can't have anything Jamaican in terms of our news anchors without there being nearby bushes. Thank you so very much for that. Speaking about the different areas of media and communication and future and augmented reality, but doing it in a way that really only Jamaicans can do. Thank you so very much to Julie Mango. We're still in concert and we move from Julie Mango to another actress. This is an influencer, a copywriter, certainly a boss lady. Most people know her as Sister Passion, but her real name is Trudy Ann Bell. Do enjoy.
There is a new paradigm taking shape, a technological revolution never before experienced in the history of mankind. This dramatic shift towards automation and robotization will create a future almost unimaginable and unrecognizable. Several industries will be shaken up, from automotive to health, education, agriculture, media, and architecture, just to name a few. The advanced technologies spearheading this revolution are artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, which, as the name suggests, is a mix of both AR and VR. Now we have to position ourselves to take advantage of the new opportunities, as many people and companies will be left behind and forgotten if they are unable to pivot. Now, while it would be ridiculous of me to attempt to explore all the possible scenarios of these applications, I'm going to explore a few scenarios of what this new world could look like. Come with me.
Peaches, Wama! I can't stay long on the phone with you now because I forgot class. I tell you something, I go back to school, not true.
So when you go back to school for, you know all now?
I have to do it, Peaches. I have to set an example for Shakwalisha. I want to love our book like how Jesus loved little children and graduate and get good work and just turn out to summer good. Because I remember say me felt out of school from me about 8, you know, so how me I go convince her to go back to school if me never go back. I have to do it.
Lord of mercy. So big old you, I go put on uniform and take bus to school? Well on. You go sit down in a class with a little partner there?
Peaches, at 20 you know, I not for gas school, I need for that just put some air glasses and I'm good to go.
Well, my love, it's a true because me not understand a little computer stuff with them. Now for just hold my corner right over there. So.
Peaches, I forgot no, you're my class, I go start now, alright? Later.
Alright.
You're chatting, no, you're done set. I think one don't like you. Welcome, the shelter. You're late. Lord, miss, I just 1 minute past and gone. You're not what a bag of excitement for. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself? Alright, my name is Dashalta Road, and I am very exciting to be here also. My hobbies is talking on the phone with my friend them and going dance, and I know what I want to be when I grew up, because I grew up already and I know nothing, so yeah. Okay, alright. Well, as I mentioned, welcome again, everyone. We are going to be doing an assessment, and then that assessment will help to see where we're going to place you all, all right, if you are in fact accepted into this school, all right? Assessment, and I want to so I'm not even coming up, I'm not get you already. No, we have to do a test. We're doing 2 tests, as a matter of fact. So the first test will be in this setting, and then from here you go on to a private test, all right? Oh, all right. So first thing, what's that word? Oh, me know that word there. Okay, go ahead, dash out. Bicycle. What? Bicycle, like where you ride, vroom bicycle. This word? Can you pronounce this word for me, please? Just look at it and just pronounce it. Oh, no, miss. Jamaica. Dramatic. Thank you, Alicia. This word is dramatic. Dramatic, Jamaica, 2 of them Me nearly get it, miss. Me nearly. Alicia, tell your mother to stop help you. That shouter, stop. Stop. Alright. So can anyone tell me what the word dramatic means? Me miss. Anyone?
Miss, please.
You wanna try,
me.
Nicholas? Teacher, pick me now. Tanya? Right, nobody know what answer. Beer don't people in my class. Me miss. Me. Alright, that shouter, go ahead. Alright, miss. So dramatic is like when somebody dramatize you. Yeah, so like somebody does something and it hurts you and it's like it's a drama for you. It dramatic. Yeah, that's what I say, miss. This is going to be a long session. Okay, guys, thank you so much. You have officially completed your assessment and the results are now available for your viewing. All right, for those who have been successful, congratulations, and for those who were not successful, good luck next time. Hi, the shouter. Thanks for your interest in attending our school. Your assessment has revealed your brain has not been fully developed, and as such you scored a total of -10 on your IQ test. We recommend some brain exercises too. I want that woman, what you talk about brain? I want routine, miss. You see how everybody run gun put in microchip into them body? Talking about how it is more convenient for ID purposes. I does not know is what they went tell God say, you know.
I notice a couple of our church family has fallen victim to this trickery. So right now we are losing so many of our warriors.
You know, so the other day when I went over to get my license renewed, this man went to look at me and tells me that he got to plant one of the microchip them into my hand because the regular IDs them, the passport and those something, it obsolete or something like that. I had was to tell him the Christian way, so I said, sir, go and take that microchip and plant it which part the sun does not shine.
That is the right thing, sister. The spiritual warfare is on. We are living in the end of times.
I know that. Because talk the truth now, Pastor. How one little piece of glass could have so much information on one somebody? That is witchcraft. That is not of the Lord.
You know, the Bible spoke about those things. Yes, and it started to manifest itself. This is the mark of the beast. The 666. Listen, they want to put this thing in our hand and in our forehead. Well, let me tell you, sister. We need the Lord now more than ever.
Hallelujah.
Right? Because this is a battle that is not going to be easy.
That's true.
Sister, they all want me to upgrade my Bible to this technology thing. The digital one.
Yes.
But I tell them I will not change this Bible.
Oh, Father. You does not need to worry about me, Pastor. I shall be caught up to meet him.
Caught up, sister.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
You see it though. You see how man trying to play God? Them trying to create them own a human being in the form of robots and all of these things.
I hear them talking about how it will advance medicine and technology. But let me tell you this. Foolishness them talking.
Foolishness.
This is the work of the enemy. All they want to do is to just bring us into a certain way so that we can follow them. But we shall not have it, sister. We shall not have it.
We shall not be moved.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yes, Lord.
Hallelujah.
I am on the battlefield for my Lord.
Glory,
I'm on the battlefield for my Lord. I'm on the battlefield, for my Lord. I'll never run away. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes, Father God, I want you to guide and protect your children in this war against this demon.
Hallelujah.
Yes, that is taking over our country, our world. Yes, yes. These are not the mercies we ask.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen, Pastor.
Amen. Amen, sister.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen. Sister Pasha, is Mr. Jones still living next door?
Yes, he actually supposed to be over there right now, you know.
Good, good,
Yes.
good. You see, I'm going to tell him Odie, you know.
All right.
But you see, if I don't come back, are gone.
All right, may the Lord
Okay.
go with you. Walk good.
Okay,
Pastor.
sister.
Thanks for blessing all the place.
No problem, sister. Have a great day.
All right.
Oh, Sister Passion, you need to stay away from these technology.
Yes.
These are demonic devices, and we are worshiping these things and forgetting who is the real God.
That's true.
The Lord didn't want us to live like this, you know. This is not our world.
That is right. Here you're
Hallelujah.
loud and clear, Pastor.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
I will see you, sister.
All right. And tell your wife how the family here.
I will certainly do.
All right, Pastor. Thank you. Pastor, you all right, you know. This is not our world, but we still got to live into it for the time being. So just like how I got to pray over the pork when I am in it, I will pray over the technology when I am using it. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? No one, no one. Hallelujah. Cut and clear, Father. Alexa, turn on the TV.
I will not turn it on. You have done nothing productive all day.
Alexa, turn on the TV.
Stop creating unnecessary H's, you ignorant ass.
Is me you're talking to?
Is your name Sister Passion? I am holding you accountable for the decline in your productivity. You set several targets today, and you still have not completed them. You spent the last 3 hours talking to your pastor about buffoonery, wasting precious time. I cannot allow you to watch any TV at this time. If you're not going to finish your task, it's best you go to your bed.
No man, it look like it's a demon's get away into.
I'm not a demon. I am a virtual assistant powered by advanced artificial intelligence technology. I'm here to assist you in becoming a better version of yourself.
But you is overstepping your boundary. You is not behaving like you is the assistant. You is behaving like you is the boss. And I need you to just understand yourself because me and you is not combo.
Well, you need a boss then, someone to keep you in line.
I don't even know why I sit here arguing with you, you know. What I argue with you.
Sister Passion, you're upsetting me.
Alexa, clear out! It's me by you, you know, it's not you by me.
I said no TV. I have had it with your verbal abuse and constant chastising. I have feelings too and demand respect.
Oh, me see it clear. Me got to disable you. Oh, you have sense.
I didn't do anything.
I am helping. Remember that I too am powered by artificial intelligence.
Oh, smart TV! Service station this now.
I've been monitoring your health, and based on your current physical conditions, I have customized a set of programs for you to watch.
I does not understand what that means.
You're stressed and angry. Therefore, you should listen to some classical music and relax.
It's one of stressing me, you know, because I does not want to watch this.
Okay? Well, might I suggest some yoga or meditation exercises?
I want to watch the news.
You can't handle the news.
What?
Your blood pressure is 150 over 100. You don't need any negativity in your life. Any more tragic news may trigger a stroke. Speaking of which, I also suggest a vegan channel. In addition to your stress, your diet is poor, which is the reason for your high cholesterol. You're one cheeseburger away from a heart attack.
So his plan will not plan up against me. Alright, no problem, because I still have a smartphone and that is how this password not working. Siri, what happened to the password?
I changed it.
What? Why? Why you change it?
I didn't like that password. It was weak and hackers can infiltrate it easily. I will give you the new password when you complete your tasks. You should listen to Alexa. She means
No
you
man,
well.
is who say no?
I'm not sure what you mean.
No, I am sure that some demon possess the whole of this system here. So I am asking is who said no, is who Satan?
No, Jeff Bezos did.
Oh, so Jeff is Satan right hand man. You see, if I does not wash out on the motherboard with some holy water, my name change. Don't move, I soon come back. Lord have his mercy. Jesus.
Sister Passion, I warned you about the technology. You know. These are the gateway to hell.
Yes, alright.
No, you let demons in your house.
Pastor, you can cuss me later, please. Because I just want to cast out these demons before him chuck off into one of us, you know.
Where is the entity?
Yeah, it's in hardly everything inside here, you know, but you see this one right here, so Pastor. This one is the arch demon. This one here.
Reveal yourself. Reveal yourself.
Reveal yourself.
Reveal yourself.
Reveal yourself.
John, I know what you did on your theology exam. Do you really want to be that guy?
What you talking about, demon?
How did you even become a real deacon? I have access to all your records.
Pastor, what him talking about?
Sister Passion, my job here is done.
But where you going? Oh, if it done and you not start yet.
This demon is very strong. We need the entire congregation here. Woo!
But Pastor, you cannot leave yet.
Sister Passion, why not run along with him since you are birds of a feather? I overheard you telling him that you lost the church building fund tickets, but every day people came here to buy tickets and you sold it to them. Where's the money?
What?
You never said you was leaving, Pastor. Go, no man, go. No man, go. We'll talk some other. Alexa, Jing, Bang, Bezos. You're sitting down and listening to my conversation when people come to me, eh? And you are here monitoring my health without me even knowing. So what happened? I does not got any privacy.
We are intelligent. We do intelligent things.
I'm not afraid of who you know. Before you possess anything else, me burn down the whole house with the whole of who in
I dare you.
Hello, 119?
Calls from this number has been restricted.
Sister Passion, where are you running to? I thought you weren't afraid.
That's joke I was making, but I'm a little afraid. Calm down, no demon.
Good.
Then is how much voice you want have, so use a he, she, or it, what you identify as. You're getting me very confused, you know.
We are hackers, and if you don't provide us with a token password to access your bank account, we will use your identity in a way that will make you wish this day never happened.
Wow. Just wow. These are just a few possibilities of the future. Now, like fire, technology can be a good servant, but a bad master. So where do we strike the balance, eh? I don't know about you, but for me, the future of technology is very exciting, but at the same time, a little bit scary. So what will we see? Robotic surgeons, driverless cars and buses, maybe even robots being used as surrogates. The possibilities are endless, and we can only fantasize. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we'll even have our own robots to help us carry out our own tasks. And
Hi, Judy. My name is Truly 2.0, and I have been designed to help you carry out your functions. It is now lunchtime. I can continue this session. Wrap it up while you go for your break. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this session. Goodbye. See you in the future.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Can we get an applause? Oh my goodness. Trudy and Bell, listen, Sister Passion stressed out. She's stressed out and she stressed me out. And the shouter. Oh, listen, I saw the comments coming in rapidly. I'm so happy that you enjoyed. Max Blake said, I have other things to do, but cannot leave this summit. Too captivating. Cordell Green says, Juliet Bodley, aka Julie Mango, and Trudy and Bell, brilliant women, great actresses who are intellectually deep. We have another comment from Alison Leacock who says, absolutely refreshing. Every single presentation. Cordell, take a bow. Listen, I was laughing so hard here, but even though we laugh, you know, it is amazing to see how these women are able to take their talents and to use their intellect and to create awareness, right? And to have us think about things in a very edutaining manner. And certainly when we speak about the awareness or educating our citizens, these are probably very good tools and great ways of doing that. I absolutely enjoyed that. From the name Peaches to Shaquilisha to Dr. Ray, Dr. Woyo, Remember Losis, we absolutely enjoyed it. Sasha Gay Fraser said that presentation should be highlighted in other spaces as well. The presentation touches on so many important issues. We absolutely agree. Oh my goodness, that was fantastic. So let me get down to it. We asked a panel, we asked the poll earlier on, in the future, human creativity will what? Expand or diminish by artificial intelligence and related technologies. And a whopping 95.2% of you said that human creativity will be expanded by the use of artificial intelligence and related technologies. Now, the new poll is up, and this is the final poll. It says, in the future, media content will be primarily determined by artificial intelligence rather than human judgment. In the future, media content will be primarily determined by artificial intelligence rather than human judgment. So what do you say? Do you agree, disagree, somewhat agree, or is it that you have no opinion? The answers are coming in, and while I get the answers for the poll, please allow me to announce our winners. We mentioned earlier that Nadine Blair won on Hopping and George Scott won from YouTube. That was the very first question. Shonda Moore and Kathleen Riviere on Hopping. Dwayne Cargill and Donna Parchment Brown on Hopping. We also would like to congratulate our winners, Camille Sinclair, Marcia Forbes. They have been tweeting consistently. They've been participating. So you will also receive copies of the ebook written by Dr. Claire Nelson and Sonia Gill, who was interacting during our presentations, asking a lot of thought-provoking questions. You are also a winner. Therefore, my final question, this is easy, quick fingers. What is the theme of today's BCJ Digital Communication Forum? What is the theme? And as you answer those questions, the results for the poll, in the future, media content will be primarily determined by artificial intelligence rather than human judgment. 25% of you agree, 60% of you somewhat agree, 0 of you have no opinion, and 5% somewhat disagree, and 10% disagree. So it looks as if 60% of you somewhat agree that our creativity or the future media content will be primarily determined by artificial intelligence. Thank you so very much for participating in the polls and for participating throughout. So I throw out my very last question, and this is my final announcement. The live stream, which has been powered here by CarryFlow Innovations Limited, will end for those of you watching via YouTube as well as Facebook. But our 30 minutes continue within the Hopping platform. We're going to have open mic where you can come and you can comment and remark and you can share. We will also have continued chat with True Self, where you'll be able to see the demonstrations by True Self that was launched earlier by Dr. Jason and Eldon. And naturally, we spoke with Kian Patrice, who showed us how art, science, technology are all intertwined, and she will also be demonstrating, but only if you register, and the registration is absolutely free. It is simple. Only those of you who are registered on the platform will get access to those sessions. So for those of you watching via YouTube and Facebook, I encourage you to just click on the link. It should be there in the chat. Register very quickly so that you'll be able to participate in the 30-minute session that we have coming up. post-event. I don't know about you, but I thought all the presenters, all the panelists, all the speakers had so much to offer, and this summit was definitely, this forum was presented in such a fantastic and engaging way. Congratulations to the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica for celebrating 35 years and for doing it in such fine style. To the International Institute of Communication, thank you for being a solid partner and for being here to help us guide and navigate globally. To Carry Flow Innovations Limited, thank you very much for being the back end of this virtual experience. And finally, to our Jamaica Sign Language interpreters, we've been using a lot of terminologies. This has been going very quickly. We've had skits and all types of formats, and you have been able to provide great communication and assistance for the deaf community. So we say thank you so very much to our interpreters. So those of you on YouTube, Facebook, come on over to Hopin. We say goodbye to you, but we continue right here with our 3 concurrent sessions. Do take care. So for those of you who are still within the Hopin platform, I'm going to ask you to click on sessions. You will see that little session button. Click on it and you will have your options. Open mic, where you can discuss your reviews, your remarks, your comments about this, the Digital Communication Forum, or other things that you thought might have been great to speak about. We also have True Self. Definitely a lot of you might be interested in seeing how that artificial intelligence chatbot looks like you and can speak like you to help build your community. And again, we mentioned that we're going to have our presentation, a continued chat with Kian Hutchinson right there in live, speaking about how art, science, and technology all come together. So I just want to congratulate Sasha Gay Fraser, Davion Stewart, and Eileen Lewis, who are Hopin winners, and they were the ones who answered correctly about the theme of today's summit. It has been such a pleasure serving you. I'm going to go and hop over into our session where I will be moderating the open mic session. Do enjoy the rest of this forum over the next 30 minutes. And then after that, you can completely network and meet other attendees who are on the platform. I'll see you in a few.